and welcome back to Mixed Media. That needs to go away. There we go. It's another Monday where we get to talk about our favorite things, and hopefully some of your favorite things too, which is pretty much anything art-related, whether it's music, movies, gaming, and pretty much anything with any slight relation to those things, and sometimes something else entirely. And that's what this show is, which is to say it's a very broad show, but hopefully a fun one where we get to talk, I think, relatively in-depth about a lot of different topics compared to other podcasts. And so if you are nerdy about these things, then this is definitely the place for you. And if you enjoy interacting with us like 909 Crime is right now in the chat, sub 909 Crime, you can join the podcast. It's always very fun when we have people in the chat talking to us as we talk to you guys. Gives us a little bit of an audience, and I think makes the show a lot more dynamic. So definitely, if you're not seeing this live, definitely consider joining us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for our live show. So, yeah, that's the welcome. So without further ado, let's introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania. Oh, you're muted on my end, I think. That was my... Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer in Los Angeles.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Sweet. And by the way, for the people in the chat, if there's anything wrong with the stream at all, like, you think things are a little bit too bright, or like, the audio is a little off, love to hear the feedback. Just drop it in the chat as we go, and I will try to remedy that as we go along. I'm live editing this thing. I have quite a bit of control, so just let me know what's going on. That being said, gotta give a shout out to two awesome people, 99 Crime and Rob Sharmer, supporting us for $5 a month on mixedmedia.locals.com. If you're on Rumble, there's a really cool button that's really bright red on the Rumble, on the page you're on right now watching this, and it says join. If you click that button, that goes directly to locals. So direct integration there, which is pretty cool. So I know our Rumble family has been growing quite drastically. We've gone from an average of, I think, 20 views per video or something like that to now like 50, which is awesome. But you guys are very quiet. So if you want to talk, definitely hit us up on the chat. The Rumble chat, unfortunately, is not integrated like on the left on the screen here because it doesn't, the Restream API doesn't support it just yet. I don't think Rumble has an API. I think that's the problem. So, there's no way for me to get the stuff on there, but I do see it. I do have it pulled up at all times, and I do check periodically. So if you do want to chat, hit us up with a comment on there, and I will relay that to the stream. And I think that's all the housekeeping. So, how are you guys this week's?
Doing okay. I bought a micro SD card because since I dual boot both Windows and Linux off the same laptop, I have it's not uncommon for me to want to share some files between the two, and usually you might say I'll just use USB or something like that. But what was the problem with USBs? There was an issue with my USB. I can't remember what the reason why I wanted this. Oh yeah, it's just the fact that being able to have it always connected to my computer is just generally nice, and USBs are, well, depending on the ones I have are kind of long, and I can't put it in my backpack with the USB in it. And micro SDs are super cheap, so it was like $5, something like that. I bought one, put it in my computer, and now it'll stay there probably forever, just as a little somewhere I can put files to then, from Linux, put files there, and then on Windows, take it from there, or vice versa, or whatever. So, yeah, that's interesting. I'm just afraid I'll lose it if I take it out because I didn't realize how small they are. But yeah.
Cool. Sounds like a good solution.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Nothing much has gone on here. It's been very bad weather for LA. It's been raining for several days straight and lots of snow up in the mountains. It's kind of strange, driving. I was driving to Pasadena yesterday. You can see all the mountains, half of them, like upper half of the mountains covered in snow. Not a very Los Angeles sight
It's beautiful though, the snow-capped mountains, right? Like it's like that over here sometimes too. Or just like
Oh yeah,
frosted
really,
tips. Yeah.
really, very, very pretty, but like not a typical Los Angeles site.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, cool. It's crazy because you guys need water, and then when you get water, it's disastrous.
Yes, yeah. No, it's just watching. Like I was walking to like the local grocery store, and just like people in Los Angeles don't know how to drive in rain, so I don't know what rain is, and just like watching people try to drive in the rain, it's scary. And yeah, also there's been just like lots of police sirens constantly for the past few days, which I just assume are from people doing stupid things while driving. So
Yeah, water is wet.
yep.
Cool. For me, I am extraordinarily busy because tomorrow or the day after, and maybe, please God, not that long, Thursday, I will be dropping my next YouTube video. Every time I'm almost there, it's like it's the most excruciating experience ever because there's so much work. And the way I tend to do my YouTube videos tends to be quite involved. So if you want to check that out, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is AWRIELA. I'll put it in the chat actually. Just look up Ariella on YouTube, and it'll come right up. So yeah, if you want to subscribe over there, gonna have some fun. And other than that, I mean, business is going really well. I'm having like the best month, pretty much, I think, ever. Potentially, I'd have to go look, but at least in a long time. So that's a really nice thing. Making a lot of connections here, and it's looking like really fertile ground here. So I don't know, keep getting more and more entrenched in the local ecosystem. So I guess I'm staying. Is probably what's happening. So yeah, that was my week. How about news?
I've been looking for news, and I mean, there's always okay. When I say there's no news, there's always news. I just never think it's that interesting. So, once again, I think today is one of those days where I'm looking through. I'm like, these things are like very 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 like average day things. This could have happened on any day. Nothing specific this week. I guess that was that interesting. But yeah, so nothing much.
Yeah. Wait, is Ben frozen? Am I going nuts?
Which it looks like I'm frozen.
Yeah.
On the stream, but like from my perspective, you guys are frozen. Not.
Oh. Maybe turn off your camera because you're frozen for me on Skype as well. So
yeah. Same.
I'll talk about mine real quick. So I posted about it on our whatchamacallit, on our Discord, which has been popping off lately. It's been a fun time. And basically Quantumania, which is, I didn't know this until really maybe, I think it's after the premiere I realized that Quantumania was an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. I thought it was a full-on crossover movie a la Civil War. Which, is Civil War technically a Captain America movie? I don't think so. I think it's like a full on. I don't know anything about this stuff.
I feel like I typically would think of it as a. I haven't watched it. I just know the premise. I feel like I think of it as a. I feel like maybe the marketing makes me think it's like a Captain America movie, but I don't actually know.
I think it's a full on crossover movie. Yeah, 99 Crime says Ben looks frozen on my end. Yeah, we're addressing that.
What was it called though? It's not just called Civil War, right? It's not called like Captain America Civil War or something?
I thought it was just called. Wait, actually, I don't know now.
I'm looking it up. It is Captain America Civil War. Yes.
Oh, so it is a Captain America movie. Wow, my intuitions were correct. I've seen that film, and it does not feel like a Captain America movie. In the sense that it is just about, or it takes place through the eyes of him, or something like that. It kind of feels like a more full on crossover movie. And man, is that movie a much higher quality than a typical Marvel movie these days. Not that it's like, fantastically amazing. It's just, better. But what was I saying? Yeah, so Quantumania, which I didn't realize was an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie until recently, has been doing really, really shockingly bad. It opened at a relatively high open. I think that makes sense because it is such a important, I think, in the lore crossover movie, so it opened rather high, but it has the record for the worst follow-up week, basically. And then the worst follow-up second week out of all Marvel movies.
How's that measured?
So you just look at the percent decrease from week 1 to week 2, and then from week 1 to week 3, basically.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, that typically means that it could. I guess you could interpret that in many ways. I think in this particular situation, I've seen a lot of hate for this movie, like from Marvel fans in particular.
Any particular gripes, or what's the issue?
I think similar gripes to the Doctor Strange film, the recent Doctor Strange film, which was called something Universe. Multiverse of Madness, that's what it was called. Multiverse of Madness. A lot of people didn't, even Marvel fans, did not like it because it was so messy storytelling-wise that it was trying to put too many things together in one film. From the descriptions of what people are giving, it's like an Avengers movie, but instead of like all the major plot lines coming together, it's all the minor plot lines coming together, if that makes sense. And it's like, no one really remembers all these like really extraneous things from this random show because the shows are starting to like properly have like roles in these films now. Like you have to commit to a whole show to get all the details. And so for the Multiverse of Madness, I noticed a lot of critique on that for being over complex, over convoluted, and not enjoyable. Even if you did understand what was going on to the large extent, didn't feel enjoyable because there was no room to like have fun, if that makes sense, is what I'm seeing. I even saw one of the people I follow on Letterboxd, who's a friend from high school. Shout out to Angelo. He has no idea the show exists, probably. So if he sees this, that'd be the most random thing ever. But Angelo's a cool dude. But he likes Marvel movies. I've noticed from his ratings. Generally like 3s, and some 4s in there as well. He posted a funny review that I liked, which was he first rated the Quantumania movie, I think, a 2.5, which I don't know how good that is on his internal scale, but just looking at his reviews before, I think that's pretty bad, actually. And then he rewatched it, so he went to the theater again, rewatched it, and ended up rating it a 0.5 star. And his written review was, I think Scorsese was right. These movies were never real movies to begin with.
Wow. So something definitely flipped in his brain, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think it's just, the brazenness with how much of a cash cow these films are. It's just like getting to a point where it's like they're not even pretending these films are like, have any value other than forcing you to watch it so that you can understand the next one and get the cool moments.
Honestly, I'm very interested to watch it myself now, just to understand what's going on.
Oh, I have no hope. I already know I have no hope of understanding anything in it.
Well, I mean, is this? I understand there's been a lot of problems with some of the shows, especially I think She-Hulk. She-Hulk was pretty controversial amongst the people who watch these things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of, well, I don't want to say it's on a decline because everybody's trying to mimic them still. So.
Well, that's just the corporate boardrooms not understanding human behavior.
I mean, I think Disney's going all in for the Marvel model is in every location they can.
100%. I agree entirely. Especially bringing Bob Iger back. You could expect more of the same for sure.
Right. Right. Cuts. What is it, like 7,000 employees? I think the other week, right? And it says we're trying to get back to our essential mission of being creative, or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that statement. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, "What you mean is save money so you can acquire something else." Be creative is an interesting term, but yeah, I basically I find this crash and burn because I think we're probably about like 5 products into the decline of Marvel. Like, there's just several shows, several movies that definitively bombed and made people, even the hardcore fans, rather annoyed. They may not hate the franchise, but they're rather annoyed. So I think we're seeing the actual decline, as I predicted would happen after the last Avengers. Not that I've said that on the show, but I did say that we were in the decline era of Marvel. Probably the first episode, actually, when I talked about Captain Marvel. And it really felt like a turning point. Pretty much after between the first and second Avengers, I was like, okay, after the second Avengers, for sure, they're not going to be able to stick the landing on like part 4 or whatever they're on of their cinematic universe's evolution or whatever
Has Phase 5 started yet?
Or phase, that's the right word.
Or does Phase 5 start next year?
I don't know. No idea. I didn't know Phase 5 was coming so soon.
Maybe it's even further in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I know the entire timeline has been announced for it, so.
Yeah. So that's my news bit, and if you want to discuss it, head over to our Discord. Link in description. How about you, Ben?
I just saw today that I guess I'm keeping much more, keeping tabs on a lot more of these film music awards this year. I saw that American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers announced their list of nominees for all of their awards. Voted on by only by members of the organization, so basically, other composers and like lyricists, and their list, their 5 nominees for Film Score of the Year are quite different than the Oscars, and nothing that interesting. But I guess it kind of will relate to what I'm going to say, I think, in my segment. So I'll kind of save that. Cool. But I'll just so I read the list, though. Their list of nominees for Film Score of the Year are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar of the Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Glass Onion, The Menu, never heard of it, and Nope.
I just remembered, I really want you to go listen to the Avatar 2. Did you see Avatar 2, Ben?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, at least listen to the score, and I want to know if I'm insane about... I think it's really bad.
Okay.
But I want to get your thoughts on it. But last thing, I just remembered in regards to my last story, that Cocaine Bear has beaten Quantumania on its 3rd week, which I think is amazing. Go Cocaine Bear. I know nothing about it.
My goodness, the amount of advertising they have done. Maybe it's just me. For some reason, they think I am the target audience of Cocaine Bear. But like, literally every time I open YouTube, it's a Cocaine Bear ad. The past month or so. So
that's crazy because I've only gotten it twice, I think.
I've never seen an ad for anything like that. I've only heard of it by name. I don't know much about it.
I guarantee that I am not the target audience. But whatever advertising they're doing is convinced that they can make me the target audience or something. They're going all out with their advertising.
Maybe it's an amazing film, Ben. I don't know.
Even if it is an amazing film, I don't think it's the kind of film I'm going to get much enjoyment out of. Yeah. Sounds like there's a lot of body parts flying around.
I literally know nothing about this film. I want Cocaine Bear to beat Marvel into submission. That would make me the happiest person on earth.
I saw an article in the Washington Post that because it's the like initial setup of the story is based on a real story, which is kind of ridiculous in itself in a very different way. As I was reading about like the actual events that inspired at least like the opening of the film, which is I think that might make a better movie than the bear eating a bunch of cocaine and killing people. But in real life there was an actual bear, and it ate like I think only 3 grams of cocaine or something like that, maybe a little something like really small amount in it, but like enough to kill it like almost instantly. Ooh. And they just found the body, by right next to like this 200-pound like case of cocaine in the forest. But the actual story I think is like is somewhat interesting. It kind of make like it. I mean, the wife of the guy actually describes him as like he thought of himself as like as a character in James Bond, except he's kind of like a James Bond villain. He's a drug smuggler. But I think that would make a better film than like the bear killing everybody. But
oh man, I'm looking at the trailer right now, and I think this movie might be for me. Ironically, why don't I get ads? This movie looks ridiculous. But it's a Universal film, so I don't even care what's in it. I just want it to make money instead of Disney making money. That would make me happy. I don't even think Universal is a great company either, but not nearly as diabolical and powerful, frankly. I mean, Universal does not have nearly as much power as Disney does.
Especially not if they sell Harry Potter to Disney.
We don't want to talk about those depressing thoughts, Ben. Really depressing thoughts. Yeah. Okay.
I found news, by the way.
Okay.
I scoured the internet. Finally. Beyond the Summit, the production company for the esports broadcasts of Dota 2 and Super Smash Bros. Is shutting down.
That's this is my sector. No, I'm not kidding. Like, I want to eat that space one day. Like, it's going to be great. I have so much. There's so much lining up. It's going to be a good time. I'm so happy.
Are you concerned about what that means about the industry, though? Like, you know what I'm saying?
No, because they don't know how to make money. These people have no idea how to make money.
The esports industry,
entrepreneur is coming out, but
I believe the esports industry is contracting. But,
yes, yes, and you can see it in the culture. There's a lot less just talk about esports when it was hyped during the pandemic, but no one knows sports, and that's a big problem. You need to understand sports before you understand esports. Maybe I'll do an episode on that, but I am so ready to dive into a major media space and put tons of money into it, which is terrifying but exciting at the same time. So there you go.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll see how that is. I guess we'll see.
Everyone collapse for all I care. Competitive. Okay. Cool. Well, news aside, if you have any comments about any of that stuff, you can put it down below, but better place, go to our Discord, link in the description, and we're going to go on to our first segment of the night, which is music. So, here we go.
Mixed Media Music.
All right, welcome to Mixed Media Music. I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and a media composer living in Los Angeles, and I'm the main host of the Mixed Media Music portion of Mixed Media Podcast. And this is part of our show where we talk about all things related to music with a particular emphasis on film, media music, and on classical music. So before we get started, why don't I allow my co-hosts to introduce themselves?
So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a media company. I don't know why my brain farted on that. Called Ariella, based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
All right. Well, so tonight or this evening, depending where you are, on Mixed Media Music, we're going to be talking about when not to use music. When is the absence of music appropriate in film? And I was thinking about this. This topic came to my mind the other day when I was watching the Russian film "Иди смотри," right, or "Come and See," is it's normally translated. Now, I partially was prompted to. I mean, I had watched like the very first scene of this film once, like maybe a year ago. I was not convinced by the very first few, like first like 2 minutes of it. But I knew it was kind of a really well-regarded film. And then I guess I missed last week's show, but there's a lot of talk about Letterboxd. And so I created an account, and I saw that, as I know Irving had mentioned recently, that Come and See is the #1 rated film on Letterboxd. So I'm like, okay, well, why don't I watch it? And yes, it gets much better after the first scene by itself doesn't really do much. You need to watch the whole thing. And I will say it is really an incredibly powerful film. Incredibly disturbing film. But like not in a horror movie kind of way, like Cocaine Bear with a bunch of flying limbs. It's not very bloody. I mean, there's a little bit of blood, but it's really, given the topic, there's very little of that. But incredibly disturbing what happens and like what you see and don't exactly see. It's not about like, you're not haunted by images of like, people chopping other people with axes or something. You're kind of tormented by images like you can see in our episode art. That's not literally like in the film. I mean, I think it's the picture. I think that the shot is in the film with like not those colors, but it's kind of made up by like really haunting looks at like faces of 3 characters. Very, very powerful anti-war film about the horrors of war, but not just in like the traditional, like, oh yes, lots of people die in military, people die in war. No, it's like about, massacring civilians and stuff like that. Very, very brutal. Fantastic film though. But what I noticed about it was that there's not very much music in it. There is a like composer, of original music listed in the credits. I honestly didn't notice any original music in it. There probably is somewhere that I missed in the like 2.5 hours of the film. But when you notice the music, it's like snippets of Mozart and Wagner. I think in particular, the ones I can recall off the top of my head are in 2 of the pivotal scenes, climactic scenes, I guess. The overture to Tannhäuser by Wagner and Mozart, the Lacrimosa from Mozart's Requiem. And that kind of reminded me, well, the film itself reminded me a lot of all the films of Tarkovsky that I've seen. I think I've seen all of Tarkovsky's films.
I'm jealous.
And well, I kind of had a, this emphasized quite a bit in my undergraduate career, both from the music side and from the like literature and film side of my classes, my coursework. Anyway, very similar kind of film, I think, in general. Just like it's just kind of epic in scope. I don't know. I think the last scene is very different. And it's maybe somewhat more realistic and less dreamlike than Tarkovsky, but still like possessing those qualities. But sonically, the later set of Tarkovsky's films are very similar. That they all have original music, but it is very, very minimal. And mostly when you notice the music, it's in some particular sequences where he uses like Beethoven or Verdi, and that's it pretty much, or Bach. So that kind of got me thinking, so obviously there's music, but it's used in very specific places, and it's mostly the music that you notice is there like classical standards, so to speak, and that's very different than the kinds of what I see from more artistic films, so to speak, right now. And in particular, the film that came to my mind first was Power of the Dog.
Terrible.
I know. But also just looking at a list of like Oscar and ASCAP nominees that I mentioned earlier in our news segment. Okay, so we have like all the two that are nominated in both awards are All Quiet on the Western Front, war film. I haven't seen it. German film, so I don't really know what music would be like for that. And the Banshees of Inisherin, which I also haven't seen. Babylon by Justin Hurwitz. I mean, I know what Hurwitz writes, but I don't know that film at all. The Fabelmans for John Williams. Okay, well, we know what John Williams writes, right? He's as he said in his most recent interview, he still thinks of himself as trying to kind of imitate and recapture the kind of musical world of Korngold, which actually I was just listening to Korngold right before started the show. That's the kind of stuff that like I think by just the way I grew up watching films, that's kind of what I like. This kind of more wall-to-wall-ish music. But obviously is silent as appropriate, letting like the dialogue or other things speak. But like music is kind of just generally always present. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Okay, I don't know the music for that, but
very poppy.
That's my impression. Avatar: The Way of Water. Well, I think that's also somewhat in the older mold of more omnipresent music, even if, as Irving says, he doesn't like it very much.
Bad.
But is it more in like the lots of music?
Yes,
all the time. Yeah,
yes.
It's kind of it's still in that like that kind of mold of film.
Mm-hmm.
Glass Onion. I mean, okay, the music is like used. It's not great. It's like effective. It's used like where it needs to be used, I guess. I don't know. Nothing remarkable about that. Nope. I mean, there's music in the action sequences where it needs to be. So these aren't necessarily like the best examples because these are not so much like films that are trying to be what I think of as trying to be more artistic. A lot of these films are more popular. The Menu, I've never heard of it. I don't know. Nope is attempting to be a popular film. Avatar: The Way of Water is attempting to be a popular film, right? But even like going back to last year, like the Oscars, because the movies nominated, the scores nominated for that, these are, I think, from more artistic films, not so much from like films that I think are designed to be like big successes with audiences. And I don't know, my impression just in general is that there's less and less music being used in a lot of more serious artistic films right now in America. But I don't think that it's being done in the same way as with like Tarkovsky or Elem Klimov, who's the director of Come and See, or even someone like Malick, which is artistic, and he uses his music slightly differently than those two Russian directors. But still, like very sparing use of music. So I just was thinking about a couple of films, and like where music gets used and why it's effective that music isn't used like until those moments. We'll start with Come and See. So what the film is, I think, does in place of a lot of music is sound design is incredibly important, which is kind of interesting for a film from 1985. It's probably the most artistic use of sound design that I've ever heard in a film. Because we get very early on, for instance, like a series of bombs go off and like injures our main character's ear. Like he's momentarily completely deaf, and then he like kind of regains some of his hearing in one of his ears. But like that moment, and we get like this just like you can hear him talking, calling out to the other character, and you can see her talking, but you can't hear, and you just get this like kind of like this like tinnitus like buzz, stuff like that. Very effective. There's a lot of that in the film, but in general, there's not a whole lot of music, except in some of these really pivotal, like kind of climactic scenes. And I think the reason for that is that the visual language is poetic enough. It's strong enough that it can carry our narrative and our themes without a whole lot of dialogue or sound. Although again, I think sound design itself has a really important role. But I think it just the visuals are so powerful in their own right that they don't need to be supported by anything else except in really particular moments. So, for instance, one really striking moment. I'm not going to like totally give away what happens because I don't want to give away the scene or any of these scenes. But first moment where I really noticed the use of music. Basically, the entire village takes place in Belarus. During World War II and in 1943, so right before the turning point where Russia starts pushing Germany back. This is kind of the high watermark of German invasion of Russia, where they are only a few miles outside of Moscow before they're pushed back and then all the way back to Berlin over the next year. So the German army is encountering all these small villages in rural Belarus and is kind of flattening them. And so the first time you really get a striking use of music, this entire village, surrounded by the German army and the SS, and all the people inside are herded into this building, which I'm not sure if it's like a church or like a barn. They're all herded inside this building and locked inside the building. And we get this mixture of sound design and music where we get all of these people screaming and this crowd all trying to push each other to get out of this building they're locked into, obviously anticipating that nothing good is going to come of being locked in this building by the German army and the SS. And mixed in with all these people screaming and shouting and pushing each other, all those sounds, we get a little bit of light Mozart music mixed in very artfully into interwoven with the crowd sounds. Very effective, and it kind of stands out because here we have classical very very clear reference to German musical history, right? German light musical history, and you get these people who know that nothing good is about to happen to them, and they're all desperately trying to escape. So very striking. The next really striking use of music is kind of the most famous scene, the second to last scene of the film. And I will not give away what this scene is, but it essentially involves our main character, he sees a portrait, like a painted picture of Hitler, and he starts firing his rifle at it. And there's a lot more to the scene than that, but we get, while he's shooting this, and get lots of images of related things, and question of like, can time ever be turned back, essentially. And images of like famous images of Nazi Germany being played while he's shooting at portrait of Hitler. We get the kind of the main theme, Wagner's overture to Tannhäuser. Of course, Wagner, kind of like the ultimate composer, praised by the Nazi regime, and this is kind of like the epitome of like German pride and power. Again, really striking use of if you're a classical music fan, what is being played. And then the final scene involves the main character and a bunch of other Belarusian partisan soldiers walking through the winter woods with Mozart's Requiem playing. So that's where music is used there. Pretty much, like I said, very little music, and there's plenty of dialogue, but like relatively subdued in terms of that. So Tarkovsky, again, I think it's very similar. His earlier films, maybe not so much, like Andrei Rublev and Ivanova Detstva, Ivan's childhood, his first two films. He uses Vyacheslav Ovchinnikov as his composer, and Ovchinnikov had started his he's not just a film composer. Actually, he only died a few years ago, like in the end of 2019. I find very interesting. But he, prior to working with with Tarkovsky, he had composed the score for the epic Russian film War and Peace. It's like a 5-hour film, massive music, massive cast. So he could write massive scores. But the music in those first few Tarkovsky films, much more subdued, and then after that he didn't use Ovchinnikov any longer, and he got very interested in using snippets of classical music like in Come and See, and also very interested in sound design, having like sound design and music kind of the line between the two being blurred. And there's it's not an exact quote, but I found someone kind of paraphrasing a quote of his, which is in his kind of autobiography. And so I had to find the original, but I don't have access to it right now. So the paraphrase is that Tarkovsky says that he believed that later in his career that a film with complete theoretical consistency would have no place for music, and music would just be replaced by sounds. Which is an interesting quote. Mm-hmm. But clearly he didn't achieve that because he still uses, in Solaris, right? Like, I think the only music is one of Bach's organ preludes, and it occurs in like maybe 3 or 4 places where I think the visual poetry just doesn't carry. It's not enough by it's not sufficient, right? It needs that little bit of music, and for the rest of it, the visual language I think is strong enough that it doesn't need the music. You could say the same about like Nostalgia, which is really kind of it's a hard film to watch. It includes kind of a famous scene in which this one character who is clinically insane, but the insane asylums have been closed by the government, goes out in the middle of Rome and turns on the choral section of Beethoven's Ninth, right, the Ode to Joy, and then sets himself on fire.
Yikes.
Yeah, like music used in like big kind of scenes like that, where the visuals alone, I guess, don't fully get into, like, you can't fully capture what Tarkovsky is going for. Of course, that's also a deliberate choice. That's diegetic music, right? That the character puts on the music like on like a boombox or something before setting himself on fire. So, you know, massive moments like that, or like the very the very long final scene of Nostalgia, where the character is just walking back and forth across this pool with a candle, and it eventually dies. But you know, we get like Verdi's Requiem playing, and it's one of his famous, like, it's like a 14-minute long continuous shot. So, you know, those are the kinds of places that music gets used in, like, Tarkovsky or in Klimov's films. Well, I don't know about Klimov's other films. I guess Come and See Us was his last film. Apparently, he said that he thought about making films after that, but he felt that everything that needed to be said in cinema had already been said. Is it interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even someone like Malick, who uses a little bit more music, you know, and granted, I haven't seen much Malick in a long time, but if I'm remembering correctly from something like Song to Song or To the Wonder, I think in To the Wonder there's a particular moment where, like, the music really stands out, and, like, I think I can't remember, but, like, we get like this, like, the characters walking through a field, I think.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about now. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, like, where music will just, like, really stand out, or like in Song to Song, I think, like, where the music stands out is particular. Obviously, there's, like, music, you know, because it's about a music festival and about a music producer and an aspiring musician. But, like, outside of, like, the diegetic music, it's mostly music that is that comes out when we get, like, the internal voice of a character, and not just, like, the external, like, we're watching the spectacle. You know, when the character's like, you know, I think the main character asks herself, like, am I a good person, or something like that. I think she literally uses those words.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's when we get music. Or, like, when she's staring at, like, a mural of the Virgin Mary, you know, and, like, okay, maybe she's not literally voicing something in her own, like, head, but it's pretty clear that, like, the music is kind of taking the place of whatever her thoughts are without making them explicit.
Man, Malick is so good. I'm just remembering all of Malick now, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah. So I guess in general, what I would say about, like, later Tarkovsky or Malick, or even in Come and See, so that music is being used a lot of times. We have, like, dreamlike states, or in places with, like, the internal voice of a character is coming out, or in places where the visual language, as strong as it is, doesn't seem, at least this is my impression, the visual language doesn't seem to fully be able to get across what the director wants it to convey, and the music is needed. And oftentimes it's a reference to something like, you know, a big work, classical work, that is going to, you know, enhance what we see in some way. Now, in contrast to something like The Power of the Dog, right, or is in general to a lot of contemporary American films, where, you know, I do feel like in more serious films we're generally seeing, just in general, very general statement, but I feel like we're seeing less music, and, you know, music will be used kind of to set the scene, and maybe it will be used diegetically, but it doesn't have a real presence. It doesn't really, to me, it doesn't seem to, like, leave a footprint on the film. I'm thinking also of things. Another really bad film was, I think it was what was it? The Green Giant. That what it's called?
The Green Giant.
Yeah, no, what is it, like Sir Gawain and the, what is it?
Oh yeah, and The Green Knight. Yeah,
The Green Knight. Yes,
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
I watched that. That was the first film I saw in theaters after, you know, the onset of COVID. And now, to be fair, I might just not understand contemporary artistic films because friend of both mine and Irving's, Kelsey, who loves film, knows a lot about film. She found both of those films like two of the most inspirational films she's ever seen: Power of the Dog and Green Knight. Like, they're both awful.
I truly, I haven't seen The Green Knight, but I do not understand how the Power of the Dog
I don't
could
know.
be like
Yeah,
that.
she wrote a fantastic essay about why like the Power of the Dog is like one of the greatest things she's ever seen. And I just said, like, maybe you convinced me more than the film did. I think your writing is better than the film. But no, it's not a good film. Very, very similar in like its use of music. There's a little bit of music for scene setting. The music comes in, in the appropriate moments, or in moments where it's like so blatantly obvious what's happening. The music just makes it even more blatantly obvious. It's really not necessary. That's really my problem with The Power of a Dog. It's so everything is so blatantly obvious. It's the music. I mean, I guess it feels like it has to be there because it's so obvious. Like, how could you not have music to make it even more obvious?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe it's just analogous in some ways to like some other things that I noticed in The Power of a Dog. I know I talked about this last year, where it seems to me like, we're getting like long shots of scenery and very little dialogue, as though those things in themselves are sufficient to make something artistic.
Yeah.
And yes, those are all elements of like Malick and Tarkovsky and Come and See, right?
But she doesn't get why they're like that in those films.
Right. They're all the really deliberate choices.
Yeah.
To have or to not have dialogue, right? And I don't know, to me, like, it's okay to not have music if the visual language is so powerful. You get these like long, haunting stares at the faces of characters, like, well, with more realistic lighting than on our cover image right now, episode art. But we're getting like a lot of that. I don't know if the music would really add much, right? Like, just staring at the poor face of this, like, 15-year-old boy, I think he's 15, and like seeing all the suffering that he's gone through, like, in his face. I don't know that the music is going to add much to it. It's only maybe like just a risk of minimizing it. But when the music is used, right, it's often like something that's really, if you know a little bit about classical music history, probably you understand like what sort of like why the reference is being used. And it like enhances these really important moments, or like moments that are kind of so dreamlike that they kind of need something musically floating around there. Or just things that like the full extent of what is trying to be conveyed just can't be conveyed without some kind of sonic element to it. So I think in those cases, that's really, I think it's a deliberate choice to use or to not use music in all of these films. And I feel like that is not why we're getting less music in serious films in contemporary America. I think it just, people think that the silence is somehow good, and yes, sometimes it is appropriate, but I don't know. I just feel like that it's not like a deliberate, like, or it's not really a motivating artistic factor for not using music in a lot of these films.
They're imitating instead of like learning, essentially. They're not doing anything on purpose. It's just, I know how it felt like when I watched this and it was silent, and so let me just paste that here, instead of thinking about, does that actually work, in your particular case, or like, what is silence actually doing, like, fundamentally to this moment. So yeah.
All right, well, that's all I have for today. So anything you guys want to add?
The last point was I relate to that as well. like having to understand the reason why and not just like what's going on, because that's definitely a thing that occurs in when you're creating video games, is like being like, oh, that was like cool in that game, right? But then it doesn't necessarily work in your own game, whatever ideas you have.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think all of these art forms, cinema, video games, yes, they may be like massive collaborations, but like a painter doesn't just go into a painting normally, right, and just say, well, I don't know, I'm just gonna. Picasso had a square face, turn my face into a square, so I'm going to do that too. You think about what you're doing, right, and like why you want to do it. I mean, obviously, sometimes you're imitating because like as an exercise, but I don't think The Power of a Dog was meant to be like a training, exercise film.
No.
So.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, that's all I have for today on mixed media music. So thanks for joining us, whether you're listening live or watching live or listening or watching on any of our many platforms after the fact. So don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe and check us out on mixedmediapodcast.com, right?
Yes, .com.
Okay, I did get it this time. .com. You can check out, like I said, it's links everywhere. You can find us on Locals and to our Discord where we talk about this stuff all week long, and to all the places you can find our podcast.
For sure. Sweet. All right, now on to mixed media movies. Ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
Mixed media movies.
And we're back on Mixed Media with our next segment of this week's filming session. And what we're going to do today is our regular Arguing with Reddit segment that we do every week. And what this is basically is my co-hosts here have found hot takes from Reddit, or it could be from anywhere, but tends to be from Reddit, about something interesting, about film or anything I would know about. So I don't know what they are, except for the one that I picked for myself. And so it's going to be all live and good. So let me switch over here. There we go. So I'm just going to hop right... Oh, actually, first, we should introduce ourselves again. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Sweet. All right, so the first hot take is going to come from Nathan here. So Nathan, if you want to explain.
Nope, mine's a super simple one from r/movies. It's just, what is your favorite movie about music or musicians? And the original poster gave their own opinion. So it says, I recently watched both Whiplash and Walk the Line, two excellent movies. I started pondering what movies are my favorite where music is a major plot point. My top choices would be Almost Famous. My top choice would be Almost Famous. And then some other listed ones are Star is Born, Straight Outta Compton, 8 Mile, Hustle and Flow, This is a Spinal Tap. Yeah, that's what it says. Okay, Amy and Bird. So, yeah, well, I'm curious also how you feel, if you've seen any of these movies that are listed, how you feel about those choices.
Yeah, I was going to do that first. So first we've got Whiplash. I think that's a fantastic film. Highly recommend. It is essentially a clone of Black Swan, which is a clone of every other obsessed artist movie. But it does it, in my opinion, this is actually a true hot take because most people would despise me for saying it. I think Whiplash is a better movie than Black Swan. Just saying it. So if you disagree, let me know why in the description. I have reasons why. I don't hate Black Swan at all. I think it's a good movie, but not nearly as impressed as I was with Whiplash. Have you seen Whiplash, Ben? Or
I have. I think it's a good film, but not very much like what the real world is like for musicians.
Of course, yeah.
So
highly dramatized.
Well, I don't know. I mean, my parents are always saying, "Ben, is that what you're going through?" I'm like, no. You
Oh,
know,
really?
But like we saw that, like, yeah, no, like.
Oh, I did not take it that way personally. I thought it was a exaggeration myself.
Especially like for jazz, like jazz is the most laid back of the art forms,
Yes, but one thing that film did, and La La Land actually, was I guess expose one of the central tenets of jazz to me, which is just this collaborative tension that now I can't now it lets me appreciate jazz like a ton better, and I appreciate those movies for doing that for me. So yeah, that's how I feel about Whiplash. Walk the Line I haven't seen. Almost Famous I haven't seen. A Star Is Born I haven't seen. Straight Out of Compton. I know what the story's about, but I haven't seen it. I can imagine that being super entertaining. So maybe I should see that. 8 Mile. I have seen chunks of it on TV. Unfortunately, I have not seen it all the way through. Let's see here.
I don't know why. I always get I've never seen it. I just get like corny vibes from it. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen it though. Like it's just like,
I want to see Eminem act like all the way through. Like what I did see was actually like it was good. Like it was like why doesn't
Really?
Eminem
Okay.
do more things? Like why not? Like just like I don't know, act more. Why not? But yeah, that the stuff I have seen from it is cool. I guess I barely remember it. Hustle and Flow I haven't seen. This is Spinal Tap I haven't seen. Have I seen any of these? No, I haven't seen any of these. But I have certainly seen many music movies. Let's see. Oh, one off the top of my head. What's it called? The Sound of Music.
Yep.
I love that film a lot. I don't know if that's my favorite. It might be actually. It might be. What are your thoughts on that one, Ben?
I don't know. I'm more of a fan of The Music Man. And if you're
Oh.
going like classic musicals,
I haven't seen that, but I do know what that is.
that's good. I would add to this list. I think you can add La La Land. I don't think it's my favorite film ever, but like on the topic, I think and it's not really realistic on the topic either of music, but like on the given topic of a film is about music, it's a pretty good film. Coco.
Mm.
Is that a film about music? You're not a fan of Coco?
No, I'm not a fan of Coco at all.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's the greatest film, but I don't know. I like it. I like it. It's one of the better recent Disney offerings. Soul. I didn't love Soul either, but
Soul was okay.
yeah, it was fine.
Mhm.
But it's a film about music,
Yeah. Also jazz, right? If I remember
Yep.
correctly. Yeah. Hmm. Well, with suspiciously no jazz in the actual underscore, which was very bizarre, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I didn't. None of those really jumped out to me, except for I think I'm going to stick with The Sound of Music so far as like the top one that I've thought of. Sound of Metal I haven't seen. School of Rock I have seen, but that's not going to beat The Sound of Music. Every time I like go through these lists of movies, I'm like, oh, I have seen that. I don't think I rated it on Letterboxd, and then I forget to go to Letterboxd and like go and do that. So my list is not complete. Let's see. I have not seen Purple Rain. I'm seeing so much good things about some of these movies. So undoubtedly there are great movies out there, but I haven't watched, I guess, a lot of them. There's the Lin-Manuel Miranda movie that's about music. The recent one, what's it called? It's about Rent.
Yes.
What's the film called?
Oh gosh, I can't think of a title.
Tick Tick
looking it
Boom.
up.
There we go. Tick, Tick,
Okay,
Boom.
yeah, that's actually. I thought that was a pretty good film.
Yes. Well, I remember. I think I did a review of this film, maybe in the Oscar segment from last year, and I had such a polarizing experience with this film, where like the the editing was so awesome. Like, I've never seen a film where the edit was so showcased so well. The structure was simple but effective and allowed the edit to really, really bloom and blossom. And I loved the way that the music editing was done as well. But I just, man, they dropped some really hot stinkers of lines here and there. Like, and the actor just cannot make it better because it's so poorly written.
Yeah, but no, I do think like the overall spectacle of it, though, like the way, I guess that's what you're talking about by editing, like the way, I don't know, I guess like the way it kind of blends like real historic footage with like, contemporary shooting of the film, and like breaks into like a Broadway musical, in like the middle of cafe kind of thing. I think it's done pretty well on that level.
Yes. Very, very hard for me to. I want Lin-Manuel to make a better movie with the same style, and I will be so happy if he did that. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on this one. Unless Ben could think of an even better movie or something.
No, I'm a big fan of The Music Man, but I think that's because I watched it several times as a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a classic musical.
Yeah. The Sound of Music will never get old to me. I love the heck out of that film. I think it has that old Hollywood charm to it that is it's so magical. It's so missing in today's films. Not that every film has to be like that, as it kind of was back then. But like, it'd be nice once in a while if you just got a charming movie. But we don't get that anymore.
Oh yeah.
Okay, this next one's from me. So it says, why can't Hollywood make a good space adventure movie that is not Guardians of the Galaxy or Star Wars? My passion for space genre was reignited recently with Werner Vinge's A Fire Upon the Deep. I've not heard of that. And Mass Effect. Is there a Mass Effect movie?
I think so. Maybe? I don't know.
That's a video game, if you didn't know.
Yeah, Mass Effect is a video game.
Yeah.
Mass Effect movie. Yes. That is
when
a
did
thing.
it come out? I've never heard of this thing.
Well, there's a Mass Effect. I don't know if there's multiple, by the way. I don't know much about Mass Effect. There's a movie trailer from 2012, but it's an animated movie. There's also one from like, wait, what? Is this a real thing, or is this a? Hold up, I'm trying to. 17 Mass Effect movie 2017 something. Mass Effect project teased by Henry Cavill 2021. I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
I have no idea. But apparently there's a Mass Effect movie. I really love the MCU, but after the Eternals, my interest in comic book movies has waned. I don't know. Okay, that's just a random other topic. I was like, but why did the Eternals do that? It's really random. But okay. I still enjoy them, but not as much as I used to. Why can't Hollywood make a good space opera movie? The topic of space opera is... well, I don't know that much about it, but it's I think, not well defined. And if it is defined, some of the examples wouldn't fit that genre. Perhaps Dune was a step in the right direction. I heard Bradley Cooper is making a movie based off of Hyperion Cantos, which I don't know what that is either. Okay, so I'm really excited for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Oppenheimer, Barbie, and Dune 2. Okay, so lots of thoughts in here. So
those are all space movies. Barbie and Oppenheimer are not space.
No, they're not. I guess they're just generally listing what they're, excited for. This is 423 upvotes, by the way, which is why it caught my attention, because I was like, okay, people really want to know, really, really vibe with this one, and that's cool. You forgot some space movies. I think you forgot actually quite a few space movies. Obviously, in the classic, canon, there's 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's Solaris, which I haven't seen. And
I don't think that would meet their definition, probably, of a space adventure movie.
See, but like they use space opera, and 2001: A Space Odyssey would 100% be in that genre if that was a defined genre.
Yeah.
I think at
And
least.
it is like a direct response to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes, I do know that. And movies, random tangent, but directors used to interact with each other's ideas. Oh, did my camera die? Oh, it died. Oh no. Should I change this now, or go on frozen? Because I'm gonna have to. Unless one of you wants to lab while I go change my battery.
I don't know much about this.
We can talk, I guess. I'll
right,
I'll talk.
We'll figure
I'll be
it
right
out.
back.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess Solaris is a response. And I assume Irving was going to say that we don't get a lot of cinematic responses these days, which I'm not really aware of too many other ones other than that. But I don't know. I wouldn't really call it an adventure. It's more like a space introspective film. I don't know. Other space films, I mean, there's like a lot of alien films, obviously. There's things like Total Recall, which I have not seen, but I know the score is a classic score. Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah. Interstellar, maybe.
Yeah, I consider that one. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're adding 2001: A Space Odyssey and Solaris, I think it's not obviously not the same thing as Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Interstellar also doesn't take place in space too. There's like a whole like first third of it is no space. But
Okay, I'm back.
welcome back.
Any interesting thoughts that came across?
No, I guess we're just thinking of other films that might be, in this category that weren't mentioned.
Oh yeah, I heard Interstellar mentioned, and I do agree that is a fantastic movie that should be in this person's mind for sure.
Yeah, I was just saying
that
like the first third of it isn't in space.
That's true. Although, like, see now I'm
like the first a decent portion of Solaris also the opening isn't in space either. Nor I mean 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? We start with like the ascent of primitive man.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think it's got okay. I have a few thoughts. So besides the fact that there are definitely other space movies that this person has forgotten, Star Trek, by the way, as well. I mean,
I mentioned that, yes.
Okay. Whose second film I really, really enjoy. I think that's a slight hot take. The first film I think is decent, but the second film
second one is what's the second one? That's not Wrath of Khan, is it?
That is the one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that actually the score for that was just published recently. It's a James Horner's score. The first one is Goldsmith, and then the second one is James Horner.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I really like Wrath of Khan. If people ask me about pace and stuff like that, that would be my answer for a masterclass on pace specifically. It's not a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination, but pacing is crazy, and I think it's because it understands acts well. The third movie is trash, though. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely space movies. Now, are there as many space movies as there are demand for them? I think the up arrows on this one, the upvotes, tell us probably no. And if I think about how often these things come out, they don't come out terribly often, but I'm going to say that these films are some of the most expensive films you could possibly make, which is kind of probably part of the problem here. Sci-fi is one of the most expensive genres, period. Just think about what you have to do to make, well, just take Star Wars or Star Trek or Guardians of the Galaxy or any of these films. Guardians of the Galaxy is probably mysteriously cheap for what it should be because they've got so much CG going on to cover the and they do a good job, I should say. It's not a knock on Guardians of the Galaxy per se. But a lot of these films, they're building these huge, massive sets. They've got to create whole worlds in studios. And then on top of that, they've got VFX and stuff like that to do on top of the whole thing. And they've got to sell it to you. sell those effects to you. So it's really difficult. And for that reason, I had a professor in college, a business and film professor, was an interesting guy. He's a producer. And he said that sci-fi is pretty much the least pitchable film that you could possibly pitch to a studio. And that should make sense, I think, because of just the expense. And then you have to, not only on top of the expense, you have to convince people why your design language can compete with the design language of Star Wars or any of the other things. Why you shouldn't, or they might try to shoehorn you into some other mold that some other franchise, has taken up. The risk to reward is just a really hard proposition on the investors, except if you are a franchise, already that has already proven that it can make tons of money, right? So that's like pretty much it. If you want to make if you want to make a space movie and you want to pitch it, the best way to pitch it, not that it's gonna, make it tons better, don't pitch it as a sci-fi movie. Don't write it like Star Wars either. If you want to increase your chances of getting funded, at least, instead pitch it as something that happens to take place in space, and you can be very space-like later once you got the money in the bank. So there you go.
Speaking of that, I heard about something recently. I can't remember what it's called, but about someone who's trying to make a quote adult version of Star Wars, like not like rated R, for like, but like with more adult themes, I guess. I don't know. I heard about this recently. Like people asking like, well, it's just going to destroy the Star Wars fan base. I can't think of what it's called.
I feel like the fan base has been through a lot. I think we'll be fine.
Somebody is trying to make a quote adult Star Wars.
Yeah, nothing will. Well, they can't make Star Wars. That's the first problem because Disney will destroy them.
Yeah. Interesting too that Star Wars doesn't seem to know what its own audience is, because obviously I pay a lot of attention to Star Wars. The season 3 of The Mandalorian is coming out. I guess midnight Pacific time on Wednesday. So obviously that's gotten a lot of attention. But Andor last year, the series Andor, which nobody was anticipating at all, some of the best Star Wars ever, and like a very mature Star Wars. It's not like a bunch of people running around with laser swords, as great as that is. But really, very, really, it would be very good even if it's like a good show that just happens to be in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So Andor is good, but then Star Wars, they also have the Bad Batch out right now, and it alternates having really good episodes with a bunch of things that are clearly made for a very young audience, and it just they don't know what audience they're catering for, other than The Mandalorian has its own audience out beyond just Star Wars. Andor clearly is for older people who like Star Wars, and it's just a good show that happens to be set in the Star Wars galaxy. But otherwise, they don't know what they're doing,
Yeah. I don't really have much else to say. I just thought it was really cool that this was a top one. I think it's kind of a semi-tradition for filmmakers of high stature to make a space opera at some point in their career. And I don't know really. I mean, I don't really have a space concept that is fully fleshed out in my personal catalog of story ideas. But if one day I ever get there, I would definitely indulge the idea of doing something like this. But of course, you have to have the cachet with the studio, or you've had to build something big enough where you could actually spend the money on something like this. So that's why it's like this. Okay, cool. All right, and last one is from Ben. So Ben, if you want to explain.
Sure. I'm not sure if there's really anything to explain here. This person just says, what are the best, mind-blowing movies. No definition of what mind-blowing means. They just give their list of 9 films that they consider the best mind-blowing films. They are Inception, The Matrix, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Interstellar, Donnie Darko, Arrival, The Truman Show, Blade Runner, and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Why is Arrival there? I'm confused.
Okay, I was about to roast this person over Arrival being there. But, okay, so actually, the moment I didn't pull it up yet when you were reading the title. So my first thought before I could see the rest of the post was there's going to be a lot of Christopher Nolan talk guaranteed, and half this list is Christopher Nolan. So
I have something to say about this though.
Yeah,
I feel like okay. I don't know. I understand that Christopher Nolan's are like, ooh, they have like a twist to them or whatever, right? I don't know if I consider it mind blowing. You know, it's like especially if you're going expecting the twist, right? Like if you're trying to watch, say, Inception, like in the year 2023, maybe you don't have a full conception of what the movie's about, but like you know it's a twist, right? You don't know what it is, right? It's like I don't know if it's like gonna be like a crazy like whoa, I know I can never see this coming or something like that, you know, especially because I think actually Inception is one of the movies where the twist isn't really that like it's not that surprising in a way, I guess, you know. I don't know. I would say though that I can't remember the name of the movie, the Christopher Nolan movie with the magicians. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? It starts with a P, I feel like.
It's called The Prestige.
Yeah, The Prestige. Yeah. I feel like I thought that was kind of mind blowing in a way. Because that I actually thought the twist was wild to me, but I was like, "Wow, I did not see that coming from a mile away." But yeah.
So this is something that gets Christopher Nolan his this is what Christopher Nolan has made his name off of, pretty much this sort of mind blowing effect. So first of all, Christopher Nolan got me into film, so I am eternally grateful forever for that man for making The Dark Knight. So, you know, everything I say in here, I have nothing but respect for this man. But and I have nothing but respect for a lot of these films. But sometimes I think that he falls into his own trope a little too hard. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just a subconscious thing. Like, you know, people have reacted so well to the sort of twisty moments of his films that he finds whatever twist concept that he's added to something to be even more prominent in the next movie, if you get what I mean. Even, you know, put it even more in the forefront. But that's kind of getting tiresome to me. And I hope the Oppenheimer film, because I've seen all of his films. I hope the upcoming Oppenheimer film is a departure from that. Just because when he's smaller, he's better, to me.
What would your twist be about Oppenheimer anyway? He's a real person. He was a real guy, you know?
But the thing is, but Dunkirk was a real story, but he added this asynchronous sort of like concept to it, and kind of fell in love with the concept to the point where he brought it so much to the forefront that I think it felt a little tacky. You know, that I am not against. Okay, let me say this. My favorite part about Christopher Nolan is that he's one of the best leads into deeper cinema. One of the reasons why is because he does do like random experiments inside of popular genre. So like Dunkirk, he's doing asynchronous editing. You know, or non-linear editing, rather, I should say. And he's doing this interesting thing where he's tying climaxes together that aren't necessarily tied in time. That's something that you would expect someone who is gunning for a smaller audience to do, yet he's making some of the most money out of anyone doing it. That I love, and I'm not going to poo-poo on him too much for doing that. And being able to do that. However, I will say though, it gets a little tacky when you're so in love with the fact that you're doing this experiment that the rest of the storytelling starts to take like a backseat. It's even better if you can just sort of embed it in there and everyone loves the hell out of it because everything else is just so good. And then you can talk to people about the deep thing that you did, right? The same, it's even worse with a film like Tenet, which is the only Christopher Nolan film I thought was just really not great. It's the first film of his that I saw that I was really unimpressed by. Well, I guess I've been 100% impressed on everything, but the first one where I had negative feelings. And that one, he's so in love with this sort of like acausal, like I guess plot structure that he doesn't bother to he doesn't take the concept and try to make it palatable. And honestly, the movie ends up sucking because I think his experiment fails. But it wouldn't be so bad if it failed if the rest of the film stuff was better. But any case, Inception is one of the better examples, though, of a movie that blows your mind but brings you deeper into cinema, because Inception, it's not... What is lovely about Inception is that these twists, to me at least, is not really the reason why people's minds get blown per se. The twist calls to mind themes that go deep and end up affecting people long term, right? So the twist just facilitates the thematic storytelling, if that makes sense, to such a degree that no one can ever forget that ending, right? And I think that's essentially what I'm trying to say. I wish he did that every single time, you know, where whatever concept he's doing is so well servicing the theme that even if it failed, it would still at least be a good movie, right? So yeah. And speaking of Christopher Nolan, you don't have Memento on here. That's because you haven't seen it. So if you want to know a mind-blowing Christopher Nolan movie, his first feature film, Memento, is it's nuts. So you should go see that. So that's my Christopher Nolan rant. But I guess this person's definition of mind-blowing is essentially twisty, or I see some things on here where I'm like, I don't know if that's that mind-blowing. Like, The Matrix isn't like like, I mean, I understand what you're saying, I guess, but like, again, it's like the themes are more interesting of The Matrix than the actual like twistiness of it, right? It's thematically rich, whereas like in terms of how it's doing it, it's not terribly mind-blowing or interesting in that sense. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, I don't know why this is in here. There's a sci-fi twist. The twist is really unimportant in that film. It's a great film. Really important twist. Interstellar, yeah, I guess that kind of has the quality that you're looking for. Donnie Darko, Arrival, man, this movie gets so overpraised to me. Like, to me, it is one of the most fake deep movies I've ever seen. And I can't get it, because it has the same effect on me as something like The Power of the Dog, where it's like, like you're doing things that make me that remind me of movies that are really effective and deep, but they're not actually speaking to anything deep at all.
I think I'd take The Power of a Dog over Arrival, honestly.
Ooh. That's insulting. That's a hot take. Wow. I don't know if I can answer that one. They're really bad.
Oh, I fully agree with you, but And if I had to pick one, I think I'm taking the Power of the Dog.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Arrival fans out there. If you like Arrival, please let me know why. My gripe with it basically is, I think people draw way too much philosophical, I guess, force behind.
Yeah, there's really nothing that terribly deep about it anyway. What do I take? What do I take away from it? What do I walk out of that theater reconsidering about humanity, my existence? Nothing. Oh yeah, language is cool. Well, guess what? I it's my side job. I work at Duolingo.
Man, I find some of those scenes where they're just talking to the aliens so punishing. It's do you hate me? You're just gonna make me watch you try to talk to a ghostly, black inky thing, make shapes. How's that cinematic? I just don't get it. I'm sorry. That's it's not cinematic to watch something sign language to me. It is not cinematic at all. And the main character, who at that time fit the mold of every main female character, thank God I think we're past this era, I think. Maybe I haven't seen enough recent films as of late, but there was a time where all female leads were just a blank slate, empty shell of a human being, where they were so existentially bland. They were having existential notions that weren't really notions at all and had no depth at all, and just they were so boring. They're so terrible. And this is one of those characters, unfortunately. I have no idea why that era ever happened. Hopefully it's gone forever, and burns in a pit of lava. But yeah, I don't get Arrival. I don't think it was mind-blowing. My mind was not blown, not one little bit, not with the twist, I guess. It wasn't deep at all. I don't understand what people got from it. It has no philosophical force whatsoever. It's a concept movie that should have just been a short film. So anyway, there's that. The Truman Show is not mind-blowing, though. I don't get it. It's a great movie. It's just not mind-blowing. I don't get it. Blade Runner, I think, is a little overrated, but I think that's a hot take. And 2001: A Space Odyssey has no mind-blowing quality to it. It is mind-blowingly beautiful. It is not... that's one of those movies where people take way too much out of the film that the film is not intending to convey whatsoever, just because it's so visually oriented. Some of the most beautiful and burning images that I've ever seen in my entire life. When I think of cinema, I think of a few shots from 2001: A Space Odyssey are just so beautifully photographed, right? But in terms of plot structure, the ending is, I promise you, here, let me get close. I promise you, 2001: A Space Odyssey is as simple as it seems on the surface. Kubrick has said so. Every person who studied Kubrick has said so. He literally did a phone interview on the radio where he was like, I don't know why people are going nuts, because it's very simple. And you need to understand that. So, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to hate on this person, but I think these are good leaders into deeper films, and I hope you keep exploring. So, yeah, that's my answer to this one. All right, so that's a hot takes for the day. If you have your own hot take that you want to submit for a future episode, I will 100% read it, or any one of us will 100% read it. It's a hot take about movies, music, gaming, marketing, 3D modeling, orchestration, whatever the heck you wanna ask about. You can put it in our Discord if you go to mixedmediapodcast.com or the description below. You can go over to Discord, drop the hot take anywhere. We will remember it and feature it on the next show. And with that, I'm going to sign out for this week's Arguing with Reddit. And we'll go on to our next segment. Sweet. All right, and here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to the gaming segment of the Mixed Media Podcast. Today I'll be talking about. I won't be doing a traditional review I'll be looking at a whole host of games that I've rated on a 5-star rating scale, and I'll be talking about why I've given certain ones of them ratings. Talk about my top 5, my bottom 5, and some controversial opinions, some hot takes, if you will. So yeah, if you just came from the argument right segment, get ready for some more hot takes. Yeah, this is all inspired by 909 Crime giving us a link to Backloggd.com, which is like Letterboxd.com, but like for games. I not know this exists.
And basically there's nothing for music for some reason.
There's no what'd you call it?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. You know, I started putting like a couple of films in on Letterboxd. Like, well, but I'm not going to be. Some of my rating is going to be based on the score. You know, like I have to give like How to Train Your Dragon like a very high. It's not it's a good film, very good film. But like, I mean, is it a 4-star film by itself? No, but musically, yes, absolutely, it's 5 stars musically.
You should put in your Letterboxd bio. You should just put like music scores only. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. So, all right. I guess before we start, let's introduce ourselves. So, my name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
And my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer.
All right, so when I first started reading... Oh, yeah.
Should I interrupt you one more time?
Yeah, go ahead.
So our episode artwork is another creation by AI, of course, through Midjourney. And there's some interesting controversy behind Midjourney that I did not know about. So hopefully we'll be talking about these things on some future episode.
Is it the copyrighted stuff?
Yes, I did not know the nature of it. I understood the allegations a lot better. And it's very interesting. But in any case, that our episode artwork right now. So if you're on the podcast, it's the episode.
Oh my gosh, is this?
I was gonna say, can you guess what the mashup is here?
Is this Agent 47 with a lightsaber? Wow,
it is Agent 47 from Hitman as a Sith. I just put Agent 47 as a Sith walking down a hallway with a lightsaber, and this is what it gave me.
Out of curiosity, have you watched the Hitman movies by any chance?
No, I didn't. Oh, I actually did know there were movies. I have not seen any of them, though. They look
I'm pretty sure they have horrible reviews.
They look funny. They look very funny.
Yeah, I don't know if it's meant to be serious or comedic. I don't know like the nature of them, but I know they're not well reviewed.
They look like they have the potential to be very, very bad good movies.
But they made multiple of them, which is the weird part, right? Let me see. Hitman movies. I'm pretty sure there's like more of one of these. Hitman Agent 47... 8% on Rotten Tomatoes. What the heck?
Has potential.
Potential. I don't think I've seen a lower movie on Rotten Tomatoes as well. But there's one that came in 2015, one that came out in 2007. So yeah, they kept going apparently for some reason.
Been around for a while, yeah.
Yeah. The Hitman series is kind of old. The Hitman that shows up in my rating list, the only one I played is the one that came out in 2016. That's what it is. Yeah, it's the newer series, the most recent series. But yeah, anyways, so when I first started to rate games, I realized that this is harder than I thought. So at first I was like, oh, it's gonna be easy, right? I like the game, I give that a lot of stars. But I don't like the game, not a lot of stars. But it's like, how are you comparing games? Okay, there's like you're comparing games that are like apples to oranges, right? It's like, how do I compare like, I don't know, say Counter-Strike to Overcooked? I don't know. These are like two whole different experiences to me, right? I don't know. I play them at different times. Well, I don't play either anymore. But if I played them both, I would play them at different times, right? There would not be like a game you play in the same mood. And I guess this is the same situation with movies and music too, I guess. But I don't know. It feels like there's even something more different, right? But I don't know. But anyways, also the rating has to be useful in some sense, right? It can't be completely arbitrary, because then it's like, what's the point of doing ratings anyways, right? So here, I've created a methodology. This is the first thing I thought of after thinking about how am I going to rate these games. So there are sort of three things that impact the rating. Firstly, there's like relative to what it is. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're making like I don't know, something simple, a first-person shooter, right? A modern era first-person shooter, somewhat arcadey type game, right? I'm going to compare it to like the expected quality of a game in that category, right? Obviously, there's also this, more categories of like, okay, it's like an indie game, it's like a AAA game, stuff like that, right? But a very easy way to like a pretty easy example is like the Battlefield series. Every Battlefield game is a pretty like expected type of game, pretty much, right? Expected, like, they don't really differ. I mean, they differ a lot, but there's certain things that just don't change really very often, right? Call of Duty might be even a better example of a game that you have an expectation with the next game. So that's like the first category. And I assigned 3 stars. So if you don't know, Backloggd is you can go up to the point. Oh sure, yeah, you can pull up my Backloggd page. But it's actually don't pull it up yet because I have quite a bit of talking to do before I get to actual ratings. But I decided to set 3 stars to be what I considered a solid game in the category. I feel like this might be a bit high because as I was doing this, I realized that I kind of wish I had more like upwards room and a bit less like I don't really care as much for the bottom room.
I realized the same thing about my film rating, which has average as 2.5. I thought that made sense. 2.5 is in the middle of 5 average, and I thought that would give me more latitude than most people do. But I would honestly change it to like average being like if I were to go back and change all my ratings. Average as like 1.5. And then like, so I have so much more gradation from 1.5 to 5 because films, like, it's just not enough like granularity. And I don't care about the bad films because if they're bad, it's like whatever, like 1.5 versus like 1 versus half, like whatever, like who cares?
But then the issue is like then you're not playing on everyone else's scale, so everyone's like, why does this movie have like a 2? It's like, this is like a great movie.
I don't care
like,
about
I know
scales.
It's great, but it's a 2.
Now everyone's scales are probably so different from each other anyway. You might as well just do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but so on Backloggd you can rate up to, the granularity is 0.5, so the minimum is 0.5, not 0. But then there's 1, 1.5, 2, etc., right, up till 5. So yeah, sometimes I was like, I really wish it was like a 2.25 or something like that. That'd be really nice to use right now. But unfortunately, I was gonna go in the 2 category, I'm afraid. So yeah, I chose 3 because I felt like 2.5 felt kind of harsh. I was like a solid game being a 2.5. I was like, I'll put it as a 3, but I feel like I made a mistake there. But yeah, that's the first thing to take into consideration: the category it's in, and how it is relative to its category. The second thing is actually the category itself. So, if you're trying this really ambitious, you're in this really ambitious creative category, right? And that category has like a really high ceiling for how good it can be, right? Then it's like, okay, I'm willing to give this game, if it's solid, more than a 3. But it's a very like, your category is like, I don't know, man. It's like Unity asset flip category. I don't know. It's like the bare minimum category. The expectation is already really low, right? It's nothing crazy. It's literally bare minimum game. That is the expected thing. It's nothing really crazy about it. It doesn't mean it's a bad game, but I'm going to give it less of a star rating because I think that's useful, in terms of like, I don't think it's useful to say like, wow, this, really like, I don't know, very solid, but also very boring, mediocre game is on the same level as like, really ambitious, really cool, very well done game. That's also, I guess, solid first category. So that's the second thing is the like what actually is that category. And the third thing is like subjective personal taste. So there are certain types of games I like more than other ones, and that also influences the decision. I considered not doing that because I was like, well, how is that really fair, right? But I realized that it was going to happen anyways. I can't really stop it from happening because the way I experience games is just going to be different than everyone else experiences them based on how it feels, how I feel about like certain types of things. So I decided, instead of fighting against it and potentially creating somewhat inaccurate ratings, I'll lean into it and just accept that that's how that's going to be. So yeah, that's my methodology. I'm curious, what would your guys' methodologies be for, I don't know, whether rating games or music and movies? What do you guys think is useful?
Music in general, I don't know. It's too broad of a category. Like within film music, I mean, I don't know, you want to consider like how good the music is in itself, which is obviously, you have to figure out how you decide that, but also like how effectively it's used, those sorts of things. I guess that's my preliminary thought.
Yeah, for me, I have like a whole bunch of considerations that I just think about them all and then come up with, an appropriate thing. And like, I think a big part for me that I want to do when I rate things is to not get too carried away with how I personally feel about it. Not that that's bad. If that's how you rate things, that's totally valid. I'm not saying that's bad, but I kind of want to capture with my ratings like a blend of different things, and also acknowledge that I can't separate myself out from it either. So part of it is going to be what the thing was trying to achieve, and that's like a huge part of my score. So like if it can't reach, like, if it just can't because it's not supposed to reach like the stratospheres, then it's going to get like a boost if it did the best it could with what it had, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how I think about it. And then like the really high scores are almost necessarily personal, in the way that I do it, because they're just so good. They're probably highly personal. So, yeah.
All right, yeah, it seems like there's a pretty similar methodology, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I think there are some unique challenges that are with games specifically when compared to music and movies with rating them. So for one, the player's experience can vary quite a bit. So with the movie or music, yeah, you listen to it or watch it, and I mean that's what you get, right? I mean, there's some variation in like the equipment you used to view it, right? So if you're listening to music, is it through speakers? What kind of speakers? What quality? What's the setup of your room? Whatever, headphones, stuff like that. But generally speaking, you'll have a relatively similar experience. Same with movies, obviously. Say movie theater versus like Netflix on your computer. I mean that's a bigger difference, but because you also have both sound and video issues now. But that's one way the player experience can vary. Now, that's one way the movie viewer experience can vary. Now with video game players, they have to take into consideration things like equipment for one. But I think the bigger thing are the fact that people will, for one, play games differently. So two people playing Grand Theft Auto, for example, won't experience it in the same way. One perhaps more obvious reason would be because some people want to complete every single side mission as long as the main missions, and so they've experienced all the side missions, and that's going to leave a different impression on them versus someone like me who did not do that. I played, I think, almost all the side missions, but not all of them. And some people who will play, the minimum amount of missions to complete it. They'll just do all the main missions and then they'll be done with it. There's also people who will potentially choose to, play the game differently in terms of things like mods versus unmodded games. So, for example, Grand Theft Auto, again, can be modded or can be played without mods. Take Minecraft. I actually don't generally like Minecraft as a game when it's not modded. I think the base game is kind of like, it gets boring, in my opinion. But I think modded, it has actually an incredible amount of potential and is an incredibly good game if you include mods. And you can also say, other games playing alone versus with friends, if that's something that's the game's capable of having. That can change the experience by quite a bit, and that'll be reflected in a lot of my reviews. And I'm not entirely sure how to solve this issue, right? Because I know I've played all these games in different ways than other people. And I've come up with two potential solutions, and I'm not like married to one or the other. I don't really know. So, firstly, I could try reading games by playing them only in the intended way. So, what does that mean? Well, games like Grand Theft Auto are not actually meant to be modded. There's actually no official modding support. All modding is all community-made stuff, all community hacks and stuff like that. In fact, in the end-user license agreement of the game, it says that the game cannot be reverse-engineered, decompiled, disassembled, displayed, performed, prepared in derivative works and or modified in part or whole. So technically, I guess you're modding, you're breaking the rules, I guess. But at the same time, it's also like it's Riot Games sponsored breaking the rules. You know, Riot Games does not care. They've said this before. In most cases, there are certain types of mods that you can't actually make, and people have been banned for those from online stuff. But anyways. Yeah, you know, you could say that modding is not an intended way to play Grand Theft Auto or Minecraft. I'm pretty sure Minecraft modded is also not official support, but I feel like I remember them talking about them modding in like a Minecon video, so I don't know, maybe it is official support. I don't know, but Grand Theft Auto is definitely not officially supported. I think take games like Your Only Move is Hustle, which I reviewed not long ago. Modding is officially supported, at least a lot of modding. So I could say, in this case, modding is playing the intended way. The other solution could be to play in the most popular way, the way that most people are going to actually experience the game, whether intended or not. So take with modding. I don't actually know if Minecraft is officially supported with modding, but let's assume it's not, right? But modding is very popular in Minecraft, so I guess I can play mod in Minecraft and review it this way because it is simply the way that most people will play it. Even if you're not creating mod packs yourself or installing mods yourself, playing on like multiplayer modded servers like Mineplex and stuff like that. I don't know if that server still exists, but if it does, playing on those servers, those are all modded servers, and so you could consider that part of the popular experience. Or getting away from the whole modded versus unmodded thing, say playing Valorant with friends. I don't actually know the numbers on this, but I'm assuming that Valorant is has a relatively high percentage of players playing with their friends compared to playing alone. So like, it's not. I don't know if it's intended to play alone or with friends necessarily, but at least the popular way I would assume is to play with friends. So there's also that. But yeah, I guess that also presents the idea of like, well, the intended way has holes in it because some things can be played in different ways, and both of them could be intended, like playing with friends or not with friends. It's like there's not necessarily a better way that the devs intended here, say with Valorant or whatever. It's just like, in their eyes, neutral, you know. So yeah, I don't know how to solve the problem. Do you guys have any takes on that? Or
all I know is that I play City Skylines, and that game is all mods. And does
the game have official mod support, or is it just like?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you that because I don't think it has a modding API at all.
Well, actually, it has. You use the Steam Workshop, right?
Yeah.
Which would mean that at least the devs have programmed something to download files. So yeah, I would say it's official mod support.
So like the devs want modding, like they actually encourage modding. They help modders mod, yeah. But I don't think they have an API, funnily enough.
Okay, so it just kind of like downloads. They just code it to download some mystery files onto your computer, and
yes,
then,
it's actually very scary when you're downloading a mod because I'm scared I'm going to download a virus. It's very sad.
Well, to be fair, it is like that with basically all modding. It's all mystery files. A lot of times, some games have essentially a more sandbox experience, but those aren't very common because it's a lot of work to create like a safe modding environment. And actively fend against people who are, trying to do malicious things. And I credit the game called Simple Planes, that did not rate well on my list, unfortunately, for being like the only game I know of that when you download a mod, gives you a warning saying, hey, this could be malware. I feel like no other game does this, and it's kind of bad because like most people probably have no idea that's like, they probably think, oh, mods, probably vetted by someone, right? Not necessarily, and probably not, actually. So, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe like analogous somewhat for music. If you wanted to rate music, you have to ask yourself, are you rating like a particular version or like the ideal version? Are you rating like the theoretical Platonic ideal of Mahler's Ninth Symphony, or are you rating this recording of or performance of the Mahler's Ninth Symphony, which are obviously very different things, right?
Yeah, that is true too.
That is true. Yeah, and that kind of like hardware differences in a way, where like it's like this game might not run well or like might be certain hardware might be more prone to bugs in certain games and stuff like that. For example, Cyberpunk just works on some hardware and just didn't on some other hardware for some reason. kind of strange, but yeah, kind of like that in a way, I guess. But yeah, and to add on top of the fact that the player experience varies, also the fact that the game itself just changes, which is like horrible for reviewing things. And that is also like a problem I don't know how to solve. So you can take examples of No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077, and infamous Battlefield 4 being absolutely trash on launch because they were more or less unplayable. Or in No Man's Sky, it wasn't unplayable, it was just bad. So I guess this is different. But poorly reviewed on launch, but all games that got better supposedly with time. And there are games that potentially can get worse, right? So I would argue that, I don't think this is a hot take, I think this is a pretty standard take, that Robocraft just got worse over time. And, well, how do you review that? Do you rate it based on how it was at its peak, at its worst, at its launch, when it died? I don't know if the game's... I think you can still play the game technically, but I might be dead. I don't know. But when do you rate it? You could do it where you rate it like just in the moment, whenever you decide to rate it. And maybe it'd be best to do that and have like a timestamp next to when it was rated, right? And that way,
it has logs on Backloggd and on Letterboxd. Like you can log.
Can
like,
you
have a new entry, like the next time you add in. You can add a new rating instead of just modifying the.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen this like whole like log system. I didn't really get it, to be honest.
It's the same as Letterboxd. It's kind of confusing, actually.
Okay. Interesting. Is this literally tied to Letterboxd, or is this a separate entity that just copied it?
I don't know. I just know that it asked me if I wanted to link my Letterboxd account to it, like put my handle. I did, but I don't think so because the code is not the same. Like like why wouldn't they just copy paste and just change the style or something like that? But I think the underlying like software I don't think is the same. So.
Do you know if Letterboxd is by any chance owned by IMDb?
No, they're not owned by IMDb. They're owned by some other database of movies. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because this is owned by IGDB, which is a video game database. I was curious if there's some relation or something, but I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, I'm looking at the log thing. I see it now. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you could review it based on like just in the moment. And I guess you can create multiple reviews for different times, and it's just so messy. And it's like, well, there's like a lot of companies like say like the IGN ratings, right? I don't think they go back in time or like I don't think they change their reviews. As far as I'm aware, I could be wrong about that, but yeah, maybe it's just be reviewed on launch, right? It's like we launched the game and you expect me to pay for it, right? So how good is it now? This is important because generally speaking, the game either stays the same level or gets better. Obviously, there are counterexamples, but generally speaking, it's probably how it works usually. So, how is the game now? This is the minimum I'm expecting. What is it like? I think that's pretty fair a lot of times. And maybe if changes need to be made, changes can be made. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a tough problem. I think another example is, like, say, Spellbreak, which is a game that I think I reviewed. It might have been like a 3.5, so relatively high for me, or 4 or something like that. The issue, though, is that the game was fine on launch, but people got good at the game, and it became very hard to play because people were just cracked, unfortunately, and I could not like survive, quite frankly. Similar issue plagues Fortnite, actually, if you play on the build mode, which is the main mode, is that you'll get dunked on by like 2-year-olds. It's kind of crazy, but yeah. So with that, I will get onto the rating. So you can put up the rating stuff now if you want. Sure. I have added 100 games exactly to my Backloggd account. I did not rate them all. Some of them I didn't play on long enough where I felt comfortable rating them. I figured I didn't really have a good sense of what the game was. Some of them I genuinely cannot remember because they were just a long time ago, and so I wasn't comfortable making a rating in that case. So I only rated 62 of the games this is a preliminary order. Okay, so I did one pass over it, probably do a second pass and like figure things out that I want to change. But here we go. So as you can see on my little profile screen, if you're not watching on audio only, you see that I have a top 5 games list, which are not really in any particular order. There's like a center one where it has like a little crowns, like the favorite. I just put it there because I have the most hours on it of all the games. I wasn't really sure if my favorite of all of them, but it's Rocket League. This is not a controversial opinion as far as Backloggd goes. Rocket League is feel like, if I recall correctly, it's a fairly highly rated game. It's a 3.4. It's fairly high for Backloggd, which tends to have seems to use a lower average than me for game ratings. I feel like I don't really need to explain much about it. I guess with my criteria, right? First of all, relative to what it is, well, its category is very strange. First off, it is the only thing, in fact, in this category, I'd say. Eccentric soccer game. I don't know. There's not really much like it. And so, at least for the category itself, I consider it a very unique category. And I got to give them props for that, at least, right? Doing something that hasn't been done before, as far as I'm aware. I guess technically Rocket League is a sequel, so I guess they did it before. But still, only series of games in the category. And for what it is, it's very good, I'd say. Very solid. And that's why it's earned and also there's a subjective personal taste thing where I very much like Rocket League. I know if someone played Rocket League and was like, I don't like this, I kind of get it. It's not for everyone. Fair enough. So I give it a 4.5. You'll notice that nothing has actually gotten a 5 stars on my account. That's because, I don't know, I for all these games, I feel like they could get better. I feel like there has to be a game out there that fulfills the 5-star role, but I have not found it yet. But I'll be looking. So, yeah, that's Rocket League. You can see to the left of that, you see Tomb Raider. Also not very shocking, I guess. The puzzles are quite good. The shooting is all right. The music is pretty good. The graphics are pretty good for the time. And the technology I very much like. So, I should say that as one of my subjective personal taste things, I really like games that push technological boundaries. That's why I obsess over Battlefield 3, even though it's not even on my list of games, because Battlefield 3 looks amazing for a game that came out in 2010, and it ran amazing. And it is genuinely one of my favorite games as a game that I don't even play, simply because of the technological advances it made. And it's just, I don't know, there are this concept of beautiful things that are not images or movies or music or whatever, things like that are more abstract, like beautiful mathematical formulas, for example. And I consider Battlefield 3 a beautiful game in that sense of the fact that just the idea of it is just amazing. I love it. But yeah, that's my thing about that. But yeah, the technology on Tomb Raider, there are some things that I see in the game that I'm like, why don't these exist in modern games? What happened? Did we regress? So first off, hair physics exists. I don't know. That's something that we seem to have forgot about since then. If you play,
wait. No, it's not that. It's that if you add hair physics, you cannot run it on anything that's not a 4080 or whatever graphics card.
Yes.
But for Tomb Raider, somehow they figured it out and it works perfectly fine.
2013 game, by the way, and I should specify, I'm talking about the 2013 I must say reboot, because there's another Tomb Raider, of course, the original, I guess. But yeah, they use, I think, a hair physics system called Tress FX or something like that. What happened to that? Why aren't we using that anymore? What happened? It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Nowadays we have two options. Either one, there is no hair physics. It is stiff, which means that for longer hair, it looks kind of strange. Or maybe not stiff, but very rigid. Say, looks like someone's used a bit too much hair gel, I guess. Dumped the whole vial on their hair or something like that. That kind of stiff. Kind of morphs a little bit, but not very good looking. And the second option is that it performs horribly with hair physics, but 2013 game, good hair physics. It's not perfect, obviously. There's this weird thing where the hair kind of floats over the shoulders a little bit. I don't really know why it is. I assume just for probably performance reasons or something like that. It couldn't be perfect, whatever. But look, man, when I saw that, I was like, this is crazy. Man, I got some good hair in this game. But,
yeah, 99 Crime agrees with you, by the way. He says, OMG, Tomb Raider looks incredible on the 360.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Yeah, 360 era game. That's crazy. I think Battlefield is also 2010 is also a 360 era, and this is crazy. But yeah. The also another thing is I just wrote down in my notes the head orientation in all caps. And what I mean by that is when you're walking down certain areas, say like a little like an underground section. Say I remember at the start specifically. I remember this moment. You're just kind of walking through this little underground cave thing, and your character is like writing on the wall or some image on the wall or something like that on this cave wall, and your character as you're walking forward puts her torch, or I think she has a torch at that point. She puts the torch to illuminate the thing and looks at it as you're walking past it. There's no cutscene. You're just walking past it, and the character does this. I don't know. It felt so natural. It felt so like, generally what happened in a game that came out today, I guess, it would be your character just looks in the direction that you are walking in. Which might feel fine if you're used to that, and it felt fine to me at first. I guess I can't really go back at this point, though, because it's like, your character's like a real human too, right? And your character should see things of interest and look at them. And I don't know, it's just like, it's like mind blowing. It's just like a whole, I don't know. It's amazing. Just looking at objects. It's cool.
You know what game? My favorite game on my Backloggd is The Last of Us, which is probably not surprising to anyone. But particularly cinematic game. But it does that too, actually, and it's like, I don't know how to describe how wonderful it feels, where your character just responds to the environment, like not spontaneously, obviously it's coded in, but like, you don't know when your character is going to do it, and then when they do it, it makes complete sense, and you're like, wow, I'm even more immersed.
So, yeah. And I'd argue, as I said like 9,000 times on like different episodes, that it adds to the idea that you are not Lara Croft and you're watching Lara Croft. She has her own interests, looking at the wall. Very interesting, very cool. So yeah, I like the technology in Tomb Raider. So that is also on my top 5 list. Aside from that, we have to its left, we have RimWorld. This is probably not a surprise to anyone who's played the game, because it's also really well rated on I almost said Letterboxd. What is it called? Backloggd. That's what it's called. It has a 4.2 average rating, or 4.2 average rating on Backloggd. That's what it's called. I give it a 4. And it's actually of all my games on my library, you can sort them by like average rating. It is the highest rated game of all the games I've played by the average, average rating. So, random players, whatever. So yeah, very, very, very solid game. I don't want to linger on this too much because I want to get to the controversial takes. And so yeah, aside from that is also the last one, I believe, it's 2 more. There's Your Only Move is Hustle. Did I say that already? I didn't say that already.
No, you didn't.
Sorry, I'm getting confused. I'm reading my notes out of order, which was a mistake, I guess. I was reading them in the order they're presented on the screen. Your Only Move is Hustle, rated 3.8 average, so also highly rated. It is the 6th highest rated thing in my library of 100 games. Pretty crazy. One developer, by the way, made this game. Overwhelmingly positive on Steam. I think we are seeing a classic in the making with this game. It is just, I don't know. It's pretty incredible to see. Like the community is kind of crazy. It's very very large and involved too. There are so many tournaments going on, so many independent tournaments, so many modding communities. It's really cool to see that happening. And yeah, it's good. So, I guess watch my review on that if you want to understand why it's so good. But yeah. And lastly, there's Battlefront 2. This is potentially a more controversial take. Battlefront 2 2017, so the second one. Yeah, it's a lot more controversial. I'll get to that later when I get to the controversial takes. And so, what did I review poorly? You can go to my whole games section where it shows all the games, and go to the second page where I show like the worst games.
Yeah.
At the very end, it puts. Is it sorted by ratings by default?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I don't know where I scroll. Oh, there it is. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the very end, you can see there are a lot of games that I didn't rate. They have no star underneath them. but the top like row and a half, something like that, top row and two games I think have ratings. You'll see at the very bottom is League of Legends. I think I gave it like 1.5 stars or something like that. Can't quite read. The text is small.
Yeah, 1.5.
Okay, 1.5. Now
you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get killed by League players.
Well, the thing is not a hot take because League players hate it too. So I mean, it's fine. The average rating is also. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think so. The average rating is abysmal, if I recall correctly. Let me check it out. It's 2.1, making it probably one of the worst rated games on this platform, is my guess. A 28% of people who rated it gave it 0.5 stars, the bare minimum you can give it. Over a quarter of people. So why did I say this game is so bad, and why do a lot of people not like it, despite being popular? So, firstly, there's a big personal taste thing here. I don't like MOBAs. Never have, never will. I don't understand them. I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. Only MOBA I've played that I've kind of MOBA-ish was Battle Right. I did enjoy that, but it's very different. Otherwise, I don't really enjoy MOBAs in general. It feels... There's also like the toxic community aspect of it, and once again, do I include this in the rating? Is it like, I don't really know. Is this really like it's not, is it the developer's fault? I don't know. Is this something that kind of happened and is like just like unfortunate and just random and they didn't have much to do with? I don't know. I don't know enough about the history of the game, I guess. But let's assume it was not, encouraged by any way by the developers. It's kind of just unfortunate then, right? But I'm including that in my rating because it's just how it is. So there's that. And there's also the in terms of for what it is in the category, I was looking at it feels like the same. I don't know. Maybe this is also me not like MOBAs, not being able to appreciate the differences, but it feels very samey relative to the other games I played in the category. I played some like, I don't remember what it's called. It was like some like, I don't know. It was like an older MOBA game that felt very similar. And Dota also felt kind of similar, which I feel like a Dota player would be like, they're not the same at all. And I'm sorry. But that's just how I feel. So, I think I gave it 1.5 stars. There's also Black Squad. Black Squad is a lot lesser known game. It is very simple. It is the reduction of the first person shooter into its most basic form. There is nothing special about it. And that being said, it is a solid game for that. But you understand the category is like, you really can't go very far. I'm sorry. It's just, the category is so boring, I guess. It really, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. It's just something that's very repetitive, very simple. And if you want to play a very generic shooter, I would suggest Black Squad, actually. If you want a free version of like Call of Duty, right? A free and worse version of Call of Duty, I would suggest Black Squad because that fills that role perfectly, but its role is not interesting. So I guess I think a 1.5 as well or something like that. I don't remember. So other than that, things get less bad very quickly. I realized that there's actually not many games that I genuinely dislike. Everything else is like, I probably won't. Some of these I won't play ever again. Probably. It's not like I think it's not like an abomination. You know what I'm saying? It's not horrible. It's just not great. So.
How come you didn't give a rating to Fortnite?
Okay, so I played Fortnite. I don't know how many hours I have on it. I think it'll say click on it. I added hours for literally every game, which took a long time. But I played. You can also sort by hours too. I can check myself. But I don't think I played enough, and I played on the no build mode mostly, which is like not the main mode. So like if I'm sticking with the idea of like play like the popular way, it's like the build mode, right? The no build is not really intended necessarily. Maybe it was added, but like it's like a side thing, and it was added later, probably for people like me who could like. I have 7 hours and 1 minute, so yeah, that's not crazy, So yeah, I didn't want to rate it because I didn't really know. On intuition, I'd say it's probably a pretty good game. I probably have a pretty good time if I was actually good at it, but I'm not. So I think it suffers though from the same issues from all battle royales, which is like, or most I should say. I think Warzone gets around this kind of nicely, where and also Vampire gets around this nicely, or Vampire the Masquerade or something. Yeah, where. Not Vampire, that's different. Where you run around for a while and then you die, and then you have to wait. You have to go back to the menu, and then you gotta go into a queue again that's long, and then you get back into the lobby waiting room, and then you get into the game and you die again. It's just like, if you're not good at it, you're going to suffer, because you don't have. I think, to get better at a game, you have to have like the more rapid your failure is, the better it is, right? So you're playing like like CS:GO or something like that, and you're playing in casual. It's like you die and you get back to a new round pretty quickly, and you can learn from your mistakes because you have so many different of attempts. You've made so many attempts at it, right? So you'll each attempt you'll learn from your mistakes or whatever. You'll get better at it. Whereas Fortnite and other battle royales, it's like one attempt takes so long, and so getting better at it is going to take very long. And if you're playing against people who are very good, then it just kind of sucks. So that's why I don't have Fortnite rated, and also my intuitions on Fortnite. So getting into the less bad territory, we have Warface. Warface is like Black Squad, but better, in my opinion. It takes the very generic FPS genre, the free FPS genre, and isn't literally the bare minimum. It has a campaign that's kind of interesting. It has 4 unique classes that are kind of interesting. The control scheme is kind of strange for switching weapons. I don't really like it. The way you scroll and click, it's kind of like Half-Life or Half-Life derivatives. I don't. I mean, in Half-Life it works, but when you're trying to switch weapons in a quick moment, it's kind of annoying. Yes, you can use numbers, but here's the thing: there are certain classes with certain like perks or whatever, right? Certain items, certain equipment they can use. I feel like the medic, whatever that medic is called in the game, has something where they can revive people with the defibrillator. It might be like on the fourth equipment slot. You press 4, you get the defibrillator. But there's another item to get it. You press 4 again, so you have to cycle through a slot to get to some equipment, which you're trying to do in any meaningful amount of time is kind of annoying. But anyways, yeah, Warface is like, I mean, it is almost bare minimum shooter, I guess, with a campaign, which is kind of cool, I guess. And then after that, Just Cause 4, which is not a hot take. Yes, it's a big series, but its average is kind of low. It's 2.4. I think I gave it a 2-star or something like that. I came in expecting good things. This is also it kind of fails in the for what it is department, because I had high expectations for a Just Cause game. I found the destruction generally unsatisfying, which is kind of like the main portion of the game, but not horrible. But I did find it incredibly repetitive, doing the same thing over and over and over again. It felt like a Ubisoft game, to be quite honest. But yeah, that's not a compliment. And aside from that, I guess those are my bottom 5, kind of in no particular order. So, what are my controversial takes? I mentioned Battlefront 2 earlier, the 2017 version. 2017 version. I give it 4 stars. It's pretty high in my rating system. The average is 3.1 stars, which is not as low as I thought it'd be, to be honest, because people, there was a lot of, people not liking Battlefront 2, comparing it to the original Battlefront 2, or just even Battlefront 1, and saying it is just a worse game. Look, maybe I've been graced with not having played the original Battlefront 2 or Battlefront 1, so I can't really compare them. But I did enjoy Battlefront 2 quite a bit. Now, is it a broken, buggy mess? Absolutely. Were the microtransactions kind of crazy? Of course. It was EA. But look, there are redeeming qualities. There is... Okay, number 1, I think this is underrated. And this might sound very strange and very like what? There is a I'm serious, there's a actual cool factor to playing this game, in which it just feels cool to play this game. Not as in like bragging rights kind of cool, but like when you are the stormtrooper in the game, it feels like you are the stormtrooper in real life in a way. It's very immersive, I guess. What do I say? Especially upon first playing it. I think after I have a lot of hours in this game, by the way. I have 208 or something like that. At that point, maybe it starts to wear away and it starts to feel like I'm playing a first-person shooter again. but at least at the start, it is very mesmerizing. The game looks very nice. Everything feels so cool. You see, you're on Hoth, I think is the winter planet, right? The cold planet. I don't know, but you're on Hoth, and you see like You see like X-wings in the air, like shooting each other, and one crashes into the ground and explodes. Just like whoa! You see Darth Vader like running around. It's like whoa! I don't know. There's a general cool factor to it. It also feels like you kind of get like two games in one. So there's the main trooper mode where you play as like average soldier with a chance of getting enough points to play as a hero or a villain, and then there are the hero modes where you play as exclusively only heroes and villains, which is also very cool. These are two very different ways to play the game. Also, kind of makes it weird to review it because what am I rating? Both these feel like two different games actually. But yeah, it does feel like two games in one, both of which I enjoy a lot. The heroes, I think I've said this before. Did I have a Battlefront 2 review episode? Did that happen? Was it one of the 6?
I don't think so.
No? It has to happen at some point. But yeah, because I couldn't remember if I said this already, but there's like a lot of bugs having to do with heroes and villains, and it just makes the game exponentially better. So the sword combat.
I think you talked about this, but like not in the context of review. Maybe I don't know. Did you review Battlefront 2? I know you talked about that.
I do remember you talking about that before too. But maybe it was in the context of like bugs and stuff instead of.
Might have been like an argument with Reddit or something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, to restate myself, apparently, I don't know what we do without bugs in Battlefront 2, to be honest, in the hero game modes, because it would seem a lot more dry. Because the way that the it's not like a fully fledged like the lightsaber combat isn't like fully fledged that you see in like a lot of sword fighting games. Like War of the Roses, which I also gave, I think, a poor review, but in other similar sword fighting games, where typically you have multiple directions you can strike in. Sometimes you have a stab, and then you can also block in all of those directions, and that's how that works. Essentially, like almost like a rock paper scissors game with directions, I guess. This works differently in that there's no direction of attack. You click and you do some sort of basic lightsaber attack. There are variations based on if you're running, I believe, and if you're jumping, it's also different as well. And how many times you've attacked in a row also changes the animations. But it's essentially like one basic attack, more or less, until you get to the more technically there are many attacks, but don't worry about it. It's the game does not explain this to you. No one knows about this. Only me and select few people probably who actually care know about this kind of stuff. But pretty simple, and you can block and use a stamina, attack and use a stamina. It's like, well, how do you win? Like, what do you do? You just like, it feels like you just block all the time, right? And then you just kind of like that is the solution to your problem, right? You use a block and you win, because there is no downside to blocking. Most abilities are blocked by blocking, such as force pushes and pulls. There are very few that actually go through them, and they don't do damage usually, except Yoda's leap or whatever it's called. For some reason, does damage through blocks. And Anakin's something, I forget what it's called, but it's like just a big strike essentially. But what do the bugs add? Well, it adds parrying. There's no parrying by default in the game. But there is a quote unquote feature, we'll call it, that has been added due to some patch that happened not long before they stopped updating the game, where essentially it made it so that if someone attacks and you block it and you attack immediately afterwards, like a little window, and it depends on the character you're using, which sort of adds a little bit of skill to it. There's a window where you can attack where they cannot block it. Right? They cannot block it, so you can essentially parry it, right? Parry the attack. This feature is cool.
Parry and riposte.
Yes. But this is not an official feature, but it's a feature that people kind of just figured out, and it's like something that people just do, right? Like it's like your normal game you drop into. People are doing this. This is like a accepted thing that you do. It's also I don't know. Not really. I don't know if this is really the intended way to play it, but oftentimes because the block is so powerful, you're essentially trying to get behind the player, and you have these sort of dashes you can do. Every character has 2 you can do in a row before they have to recharge, except Count Dooku has 3. He's like the duelist character, so he's like specializes against dealing with other saber heroes, and having another dash is nice. And you're trying to get behind them, essentially, is kind of the name of the game. But yeah, I don't know if this is really intended, but it's good. It's fun. But yeah, it's unintentionally great game. So it's like the basis of the game, technologically speaking, very good. Execution of the idea, it's okay, not the greatest, and the buggy layer on top makes it pretty darn good in my opinion. That's why I gave it a 4. And I accidentally yeeted my notes somewhere I cannot find. That's great. I found. Oh wait. Okay, now my Skype window. I figured it out. Okay, we're good. I think. Yes. Sorry. Okay, so that was Battlefront 2. Aside from that, another game that's kind of, I guess, a controversial opinion would be Dirty Bomb, which I saw, I think Irving as well rated fairly high. I think it was 3.5 rated or something like that. I don't remember.
Probably. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I also gave it 3.5 stars. It averages 2.7 stars. I think that's wild. I think it's wild compared to
people don't like that they added the invisible character, which I understand actually.
Phantom. Okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like once you see Phantom once, it actually isn't that hard to see him in general. I feel like, especially if he's coming straight towards you.
I think they nerfed him eventually. I don't know if a lot of people stopped playing before they nerfed him.
There's also like the thing where like if you play as the character, like it was like a symptom of every class-based game. You're like, oh, this character's like overpowered, and you play the character. It's like, wait, why am I not winning automatically? Because it's not that easy. Oftentimes, it's just you're bad dealing with the character. A lot of times, that's just what it is.
I would consider it's fault. You just suck.
Well, if a new character comes, it's understandable that people are having a hard time dealing with it because they never experienced it before, right? But over time, you should kind of get better, probably. But yeah, I remember that. Yeah, they were actually forgot about that originally when Phantom was added. There was a lot of people who were upset about that. Phantom was considered an overpowered character because he can go invisible and he's hard to see. But I mean, you can kind of see him because he kind of shimmers a lot, in my opinion. But whatever. I think this is a great game, though. I gave it 3.5. Well, first off, it is an automatic 3. It's a solid class-based, or I guess hero shooter, you might call it, right? It's solid for what it is. But it also takes a very unique take on the idea. It is not like Overwatch. And by the way, I do generally, even though I just did it, I generally don't like the idea of comparing all hero-based shooters because all hero-based shooters, unlike a lot of other genres, are actually pretty different. The most similar, I would say, would be Overwatch and Paladins, which I would still consider very different. I mean, people compare, like, I don't know. It feels very strange playing Overwatch and comparing it to Dirty Bomb. It's like these are not the same experience in any like capacity. These are so different. The interesting take is that one, it's a lot more grounded in traditional gunplay. So no one has any sort of like fancy weapon. There are no grenade launchers. Okay, there is a grenade launcher. That's an ability though. there are no main weapon grenade launchers. There are no like, I don't know, there's no like flamethrower. It's something weird like that. You know what I'm saying? It's very traditional, arcadey, fun gunplay type stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very, very simple, I guess. But it also feels good. I would say a lot of those guns feel nice, especially the AK. I found the sound is very nice. The animation is very nice. It feels nice in general. I like, even though they had a relatively low variety, they had a low variety of weapons, which I think was good so as to not like, how would you say, conflict with also the idea of being a hero-based shooter where a lot of your differences are meant to come from the fact that you have different heroes. So it's not like, oh, well, this gun is like super situationally different than this other one. Yes, there are guns like that. Obviously, there are different types of guns, but that wasn't like the main focus, right? Your character has a lot of weight to him. But he doesn't have enough. It doesn't have a lot of weight like Overwatch or Paladins, where your character really, really, really does mean a lot about what you're going to be doing. It definitely does change how you play for sure in Dirty Bomb. What character you're playing, of course, it's not the same exact thing, but I would consider it a lot more samey, right? Where everyone sort of fills the same role as like, average soldier with extra abilities, but the abilities still feel potent and stuff like that too, right? It's not like, say, Battlefield, where your abilities kind of feel like they're like more of like a secondary-ish thing. Yes, like they are very important for sure, right? If you're an engineer, you want to be next to that tank, repairing it, whatever, getting those points, you know how it is. But at the end of the day, an engineer can fulfill the same role, a similar role as the assault class, right? In terms of where he's positioned and stuff like that, and what you're doing, especially in certain maps like called Metro. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. Yeah, say Metro, right? Are there vehicles? There are no vehicles in Metro, right? Or is it outdoor section?
There's an outdoor section, but there are no vehicles.
Okay, right. Yeah, I think in Deathmatch in general, there are no vehicles, right? Or am I mistaken?
There's no vehicles in Deathmatch at all. But Metro,
right.
There's every game mode for Metro.
Gotcha. So what do you do as an engineer on Deathmatch? Well, you don't repair things, obviously, right? But like you can still play as an engineer, and you can still you have as an engineer, you have a different weapon set than other players, which you might find advantageous and which you might use. And so, I'd say it leans more into like the weapons are really important. Your abilities are, or whatever you want to call them, are a little more secondary than Dirty Bomb, where I would say, well, there are certain scenarios where you literally do not want to use this character, like using anybody with airstrikes in, what's that map called? Underground, that's what it's called. Because you're underground, and only the first point, if I recall correctly, and part of the second-ish, had like 2.5 points. It was like the middle section. But the first point and the middle section, you can still use airstrikes, I guess, but it's not all too useful. We also switch between different characters, so it's no big deal. But I think it's a really good, interesting combination of utilities and traditional shooter gunplay in a hero shooter. Definitely different than Overwatch. Definitely different than Paladins. Definitely different than people compare TF2 with these games too. I'm like, I don't really know where we're coming from here, but I guess hero shooter. I mean, I don't know. I hated that, by the way, when Overwatch was coming out. People were like, "Well, TF2 is better." It's like, what are you talking about? This is like, why are we comparing these? I don't understand. But yeah. Moving on, we have Generation Zero, which I gave 4 stars, and is the only game I had to write a review for it to justify it, because the average is 2.4. I didn't want someone to look at it and be like, "This guy has no idea what he's talking about." No, you don't understand. Actually, let me pull up my review of this game. I'm on the wrong page. There, Generation Zero. Generation Zero, game with 2.4, 4-star average. I give it 4. So I wrote, quote, "There is no game that's made me laugh so much without meaning to be funny. I played near the original release when there was still a lot of bugs. Finding medkits phased through stovetops and seeing my co-op partner tanking dozens of cannon rounds without receiving any damage are memories I won't forget. Unfortunately, I hear the bugs have mostly been patched out. The developers have made a grave error." So once again, it's another game that is kind of enhanced by the bugs, which have since been patched out supposedly. So I have Generation Zero is a game that a friend of mine told me to get, and I looked at it with great skepticism as like, this does not look interesting. And it's not interesting, to be clear. At least it wasn't at the time. So I don't know if it is anymore. But it's a I guess unique-ish concept. It's an open world game where you fight robots in like a post-apocalyptic world. And yeah, it's kind of like not survival ease, like ammo management. There's no like food or water management. It's not like that kind of survival. It's not like DayZ, But there are survival aspects of conservation of ammo and things like this. But the game was a buggy mess, and it was just silly, and it was fun. I have a screenshot on Steam. I should have sent it, but it was just an image of a giant. I'm talking a giant robot, a boss robot. I'm like the size of like a house, right? A giant robot with my friend standing right underneath it, looking down at it, just absolutely lasering him, and he just wouldn't die because he didn't take any damage. And on his screen, that robot did not exist. On mine, it did. So,
sounds like so bad it's good kind of experience.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've heard they patched out these bugs. I don't know. I mean, I wish it was more common for games to have like older versions still playable. That is a thing with some games. Like Yomi Hustle has literally every version from post early access released available to play, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But a lot of other games do not do that. I don't know if Generation Zero does that. I doubt it does, because it'd have to host servers that run on older versions, and it's like, why would you do that? Because I mean, technically the games are better, technically speaking, in their eyes, not in my eyes, I guess. But yeah, unfortunately, I'll probably never be able to experience this 4-star of a game ever again. But it was certainly a pretty fun experience just playing it, and just always something weird. Like the medkits phase through stovetops. They fixed that. I remember I played while they fixed that. There used to be random like medkits. Like literally, there's like a stove, like it was like a standard asset. They keep copy pasting the same stove, and they copy paste on top of it a frying pan that's faced to the stove a little bit for some reason, and a med kit that is like, what do you call those things? Above the stove, there's like the place where like you can like the gases can escape, right? Smoke and steam can escape. Yeah, and in that there'd be a little med kit. I don't know why they put it anywhere near that, by the way, but it'd be like in it, and you have to like jump onto the stove and kind of like wiggle around until you can press like E or F or whatever until you can grab it, whatever. But yeah, it's weird things like this were just really funny. Like your head could kind of poke through certain objects. It was like a tent your head could just poke through. I don't know. It's hard to explain without images, but it was good. It was just funny in general. Once again, another game where it's like, I don't think the popular experience is to play with a friend. So if I didn't play with a friend, because it definitely adds to the fun factor of playing with a friend in this game. I think it'd be a lot more boring alone. So I feel like, this might be like a considerably worse rated game if I played it alone. I did not understand the full potential, but yeah. And the last game I want to talk about, I have a controversial opinion on, is Trove. I gave Trove a 3.5 stars and averages only 2.2. That is crazy in my opinion. 2.2 stars on Trove. So what is Trove? I think I actually mentioned the developers of Trove last episode or something like that. As a, I don't know, this is a news segment or something like that. I don't remember why, but I think I said the developers went bankrupt or something like that. Trove got bought out by Game Ago. And yeah, since then, Game Ago has supposedly taken care of the game nicely. I haven't played since. This is a game I played. I want to say this is early gaming, early PC gaming for me. This is middle school, I want to say, into high school or something like that. This game has a lot of, I guess, personal subjective taste behind it, I guess, for that reason. It is the only MMO game that I can actually play and enjoy. And the funny thing is, I do not play the MMO part of the game. I play everything else about it. So the game is a voxel-based MMO game. It kind of reminds me of Cube World, which is that game that I don't know what happened to it, but I think it disappeared off the face of the world. But similar aesthetic. It used to be compared a lot with Cube World. I remember when Trove was, more. I don't know if it's more hyped, I guess, and when Cube World was more hyped as well. Although they're very different games. Cube World, I don't think is an MMO at all, but it is, as far as I can tell, a fairly standard MMO. I haven't played too many MMOs, but I played enough where it feels very similar. Although with this whole aspect of like block building, right, which is kind of cool. You can destroy certain parts of like dungeons and stuff like that. You can build. It's kind of cool. You have a lot of really cool classes that I feel like a lot of MMOs have very simple and basic classes that aren't very interesting, but I find Trove classes to be kind of cool. I like the aesthetic of the game. It's very nice, but I didn't play it in a conventional manner, which is, once again, goes back to our original thing I was talking about of like, can I rate this game properly if I didn't play it like everyone else plays it? I played neither the intended way nor the popular way, probably. So how did I play it? Well, originally I started playing it as you would play an MMO. I enjoyed it. And there are these things called club worlds in the game, which are these little. If you ever played Warframe, it's like a dojo. It's essentially a thing you can buy with in-game currency, and you kind of own it. It's your little own world where you can build stuff and stuff like that, or whatever. And it's a blocky game, right? So you can build with blocks. It's very creative. It lets you create a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah, it's a little own world you can build stuff, and you can invite people to. People can be part of your club world. So I found out about Club Worlds, and I thought, wow, I like this a lot more than the base game. And so I spent most of my time just building. Now, of course, at the time, the game was a lot shorter, so I actually basically got to the end game content, which is weird to say for MMO, which are pretty much infinite usually. Nowadays, I'm probably at like 2% because I keep updating the game. But I got to the end game content, and I just built. I built the entire. I always build it. I built cool stuff. I looked at other people's cool buildings. So there was like two aspects to it that I really liked. There's firstly the social aspect, where there are a lot of friends I made on that. One of which I have as a friend on Steam to this day, which is strange because Trove was not originally on Steam. When I played it, it was not on Steam, and we have not talked in many years, which I thought was interesting. And I remember vividly, it was his birthday, and before his birthday, me and some other guy went to a Club World, and we built him like a giant statue of his character in the game, and had a whole gift box around it. And his birthday came, we just broke the box, and we're like, yeah, look at this. And it was like a cool social moment, very cool social game. The community is cool. There was this aspect of like trading that they kind of changed a little bit when I started playing. There's a community, there are items that you can there are places where you can trade items, right? And the community you can make like chat channels, right? So there's like a little chat on the bottom left, and you can literally create your own channel so that anyone can talk in. So you can do like / I don't know what the command was, say / create whatever your name is, and anyone could talk. As long as anyone did / join whatever, they could type in it. I don't think it was a command, but close enough, And people created the / trade channel, which was like a massive channel that people would talk through and trade things, whatever, and haggle and stuff like that. I thought this is a really cool, like, it felt so like not gamey and so much more social. It's like the rules weren't really there anymore of the game. It was very like you can kind of you have a lot of freedom to do whatever you want in a way. And so I really enjoyed that social aspect of the game. Met a lot of really cool people, made a lot of cool friends. And I really enjoyed the creative aspect of the game of creating stuff. I do really enjoy creative games, so that was cool. And seeing a lot of people also made. Everything else in the game for me was the backdrop. All the other MMO stuff, like I didn't care anymore at that point. The most that would happen is there were these things called shadow dungeons. That's what they're called. Is the end game content, is the thing you grind out. You keep doing shadow dungeons when you were at the end of the game. Nowadays, these don't exist anymore in the game. Actually, they removed them. But they were a thing you do at the end, and it says at the end, people would just invite me, say, hey, I'm doing a shadow dungeon raid. You want to join? I'd be like, sure, I'd do it. And then that's the extent to which I'd play the game, essentially, pretty much. Only if I was invited to do something. Otherwise, I would stick, just chill my Club World, unless I didn't have enough materials to build, in which case I'd go and farm some items and then sell them or something and buy whatever I needed. And that was pretty much it. So those are my top games, my worst games, and some controversial opinions. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Real quick, 99 Crime says the dev of Cube World went like 8 months without doing any testing, and it went in the direction people didn't like, if I remember correctly. After the backlash, it went offline, or the dev did, rather.
Yeah, the last I heard of Cube World was the dev just disappeared and never came back for like some months. So I don't know what the status of that is now. I don't know if that dude ever came back. I think it was him and his wife, actually. They both worked on it. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Apparently its official release was 2019. But I don't know if it like still exists. Purchases, review. The Wikipedia says nothing about the disappearance, which is kind of strange, but okay. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it was great seeing everyone get on the Backloggd game on Discord. So if you want to go check that out and discuss your ratings, definitely check out our Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You want to take us out then, Nathan, out of the show? This is on the longer side of the show.
Yeah, it's been some time. Sorry, I was looking at the Cube World subreddit. It still is active, so I guess it still exists, but I don't know the development. Anyways, thank you for watching this segment of the Mixed Media Podcast. If you enjoyed this segment, there are many, many more segments that are to come, and more that you can watch that were filmed previously. So you can check out our YouTube channel, our Rumble channel. I don't know if they're called channels or a Rumble account or whatever.
Channel. Mm-hmm.
It's channel? Okay, our Rumble channel, where you can see all our past shows. And you can go to mixedmediapodcast.com, where you can see where you can find us, where we'll be on all our platforms that you may want to watch, where you can see our future content. And join our Discord, where you can potentially join us on the Backloggd goodness, or maybe you have some comments about my hot takes or whatever, and we can talk about it there. So with that, thanks for watching.
Yeah, thanks for watching and listening.
See you next week.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone